So now we know we're recording. What am I going to do with that recording? We'll talk about that in just a second. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. So you guys should all be seeing my pretty sunflowers right now. Does it make you feel warm? That's kind of my intention. I want us to try to feel warm and not be reminded that it's like 25 degrees outside. So think warm thoughts, spring, summer, whatever. Not unless you're a winter person, then you're good here. And we're officially going to say, welcome, Carolina School of Real Estate. This is our 75-hour pre-licensing class. As I said, this is day one of your real estate career. So welcome, everybody. And just a quick introduction to get us started. Lane Young is the director of our school. You've probably already had some kind of communication with Lane. If nothing else, you got the email from Lane to get the Zoom link to get into this class. But if you need to get in touch with Lane, here's her phone number and email contact information. Keep the email that Lane sent you, the email that you used to access class today, because that's the link we're going to use every single class. My suggestion is to create a folder, call it pre-licensing, and that way you know where to find that email. I don't know what your inbox looks like, but mine emails get pushed down and eventually they go to the second page and the third page or the 20th page. So as time goes on, that email is going to get pushed further and further away. So my suggestion is to create a folder, put that email that Lane sent you yesterday, the one that you used to access class this morning. And that way you know how you can jump on. We're not usually going to be here at 8:30 in the morning. That's kind of for the birds. So now that we're all here and we can, for the most part, see each other, typically I get on about 8:45. My suggestion to you guys is to log on at that time because Zoom needs to do an update. If they need to do anything, that gives your computer time to do what it needs to do. You don't have to be on camera until 9, but if you want to come on about 8:45, and that way you know that you're here. So again, Lane is the director of our school. Reach out to her for anything school related. And my name is Julie, and I'm going to be your instructor. And I'm going to be with you guys for the next, what are we together? Like a couple months. So we'll be together for the next 8 or 9 weeks or so. This is my contact information. Please jot this down. Put this on the inside cover of your notebook so you know where to find it, so you know where to get it. At some point, you may need to reach out to me. Maybe you have a question. Maybe you need to miss class, whatever. But this is how you get in touch with me. I know my email's long, but it really does make sense if you look at it, doesn't it? Because who am I? I am Julie, the real estate instructor at gmail.com. Text and email are typically the best way to get in touch with me. I'll get back to you when I can. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, you'll learn all about me in the next couple months, but just to tell you a little bit about myself, I started in real estate in, what year was that? It was 2000. So I just celebrated 20 years last year. That's a long time. And I got 20 plus more years to go in me. So I started as an admin. My background was administrative. I took care of the agents and let the agents go take care of everybody else. And then one day I decided, why do the agents get to have all the fun? I want to have fun too. So I quit my admin job, jumped into sales. And then in addition to sales, I guess I bore easy, I don't know. I decided to pick up this teaching thing. So here we are today. Today I wear 2 hats. Sometimes I'm a sales, sometimes I'm an instructor. Just depends on what hat I'm wearing on what day. So you have my contact information. I do like to hear from you guys. As a matter of fact, I'll need to hear from all you guys after class today. I'll talk about that more in just a second. So if you don't have that, please jot it down. Phone number and email. So let's talk about, not so much about why we're here, but let's talk about why we're not here. Let's go ahead and talk about what we're not going to talk about. Guys, I'm not here to teach you guys how to be a real estate agent. I'm not here to teach you how to successfully do an open house. I'm not here to teach you how to get buyer leads or how to get listing appointments. I have 2 purposes. I'm here to prepare you for your state exam, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And I'm also here to keep you out of trouble once you do have your license. Our job is to cover the laws, the rules, the basics, the foundation. Now, what you do from here, everybody understand this is only the beginning of your education in real estate. There's further education once you get licensed. We have continuing education. We have post-licensing. Again, we'll talk all about that as time goes on. How many of you, and you can show me, you can raise your hand, how many of you have bought a house or sold a house before? You've personally bought or sold a house, a couple of you. How many of you have rented an apartment or a house? How many of you have acted as a landlord even? Quite a few of you have some kind of experience. I want you guys to all take that experience for this class and toss it off to the side. Because we're not here to deal with day-to-day, real life, everyday situations. Again, we're here to prepare you for your state exam. We're here to teach you the laws and the rules. I'm not here to tell you if your agent was right or wrong in your transaction. We're not going to go there. But we are here to make sure that you guys, again, it's your foundation of your career. Anybody here watch HGTV? Raise a hand. I know you guys are here. Where are your HGTVers? Turn it off. You guys know that stuff isn't real, right? Don't watch HGTV and say you're studying for your state exam. It just doesn't work that way. Okay, so past experience, HGTV. Let's start today with a clean slate. Let's start today with a clean slate, a brand new knowledge that we need to get started in real estate. So this class is actually from the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. We'll talk all about the Real Estate Commission as we go. And they do set requirements. They do give us rules and laws that we have to follow. And one of their requirements is that you have to be here at least 80% of the time. In a 75-hour course, that means you can only miss 15 hours. You guys, please write that down. 15 hours is the most you can miss. If you miss anything more than 15 hours, you're not eligible to take the end of class exam. And please note that says, regardless of the reason. I'm not going to say I've heard all the reasons, but I've heard some good reasons. I'm sick, my family's sick, jury duty, surgery. Unfortunately, guys, the reason doesn't matter. If you miss more than 15 hours, you're missing a lot. First off, let me say that. If you think you're going to miss 14 hours and 55 minutes and be okay, I'm here to tell you that may not work out for you. My suggestion is to be here as much as you can. I do take attendance. I do screenshots for attendance. So when we start the morning, I'll take a screenshot. If I see you, I give you credit. We'll take breaks. I'll talk about breaks in just a second. I'll take a screenshot. If I see you, I'll give you credit. Bottom line, if I can't see you, I can't give you credit for being here. So I have you guys Tuesday, Thursday, 9 to 1. Please dedicate that time for this class. Talking about breaks, we take a 10-minute break on the hour-ish. So about 10 o'clock, we'll take a 10-minute break. 11 o'clock, we'll take a 10-minute break. 12 o'clock, we'll take a 10-minute break. So that's the time that you want to, return texts or emails or anything like that. Any questions on this? It's pretty simple. Do you want credit for being here? I need to see you. I got a couple of you I haven't seen yet. I'm not sure if you're having technical problems. If you are, please reach out to Jane or I. Jane's email is in the email that you use to access this class. So things have changed, yes, rapidly things change for us. Once upon a time ago, we used to be in person in a live setting, a live classroom setting where I could see you guys. Now we're on this, it's called synchronous learning is what we're doing right now. We're only separated by distance. We're still logging on at the same time. We're still together. We're just seeing each other differently. Probably one of the biggest problems that we have had with going from an in-classroom setting to synchronous learning are distractions. Can we all agree there are distractions at home? Can we all agree with that? There's kids, there's pets, there's significant others, there's TV, there's browsers on your internet, there's What else? There's this thing. My gosh, put this thing down for, a couple hours. I mean, there's laundry to be folded. There's all sorts of things going on at home. I need you guys here, 9 to 1. I need you in a quiet study place. I need you in a place without distractions, or as minimal as possible. I need you guys, real quick, back to the attendance reel thing. I know a couple of you said you may need to take 15 minutes to go do this and that, and that's fine. I get it. Life happens. I get it. If you need to leave for 15 minutes and turn your camera off, then you just need to tell me in a chat. Julie, I'll be back in 15. Julie, I'm back. That kind of thing. All I ask is that you guys communicate with me. Let me know how I can help first off, but let me know if you're not able to be here, if you have to turn your camera off. Let's go ahead and practice this. You guys find your chat. It's going to look a little bit different now than what it did now that I'm sharing my screen. But again, if you move your mouse to the bottom, and you should see your Zoom toolbar. And one of those options is chat. Does everybody see that? And once you pull up chat, you can either send a chat to everyone, or you can send a chat just to me. So if you need to communicate with just me, and let's practice that while we're doing this. Does everybody see what I'm saying? Send me, just me, a chat that says, good morning or hello or testing. That's a good one. And make sure you know how to communicate just to me. If you need to leave for 15 minutes, say, Julie, I'm turning my camera off. When you're back, Julie, my camera's back on. And you guys don't need to ask me. You don't need to ask me how many hours you've missed. You know if you're not here, right? Right? Good morning.
Can I help everybody out? When you go click chat, you see a list of names at the bottom. You have to click the name and change it to just her.
So thank you, Diego. So yeah, you can chat, and you guys can chat to each other, but quite frankly, I don't want you guys doing that, because would you consider that a distraction if you're chatting with each other during class? I would. Are you guys hearing what I'm saying? There's a whole lot of other things you could be doing, but you know what I want you guys doing when we're here together? I want you listening. I want you paying attention. I want you taking notes. So you can, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. I know somebody, I saw it come through, somebody said their camera's not working. Just get with me or Jane after class and we'll get that. Day 1 is our grace period, because we're all learning. I know, now that we're all looking at each other, I know I asked before, but there are quite a few of you. How many of you are brand new to Zoom? Never took a Zoom class? There are quite a few of you. So we'll get through it. We will get through it. You'll learn a lot about Zoom just today, as a matter of fact. You've already learned about chat, participants, and mute and start and stop video. I mean, there's not much more to it. So you guys are doing good. Okay. Again, it's so important that we keep distractions to a minimum. I encourage you guys to find a quiet study place somewhere in your home. Or you can be like William and go out to your car. You'll note that William's not driving. He's just hanging out in his car. I get it. Sometimes your car is your quietest place. I totally get it. If you're in your car, because that's your quiet place, just please let me know. Because that is one distraction I absolutely will not tolerate. If I see you're in a driving car on the Zoom call, I will remove you from the call. You're welcome to come back whenever you get to where you're going, but I don't want you putting yourself or others at danger trying to drive while be on Zoom and listen and take notes and, raise your hand and do all that stuff. So that's one thing that I will not tolerate. And again, you're welcome to come back once you get to wherever you're going, but hopefully we won't deal too much with this. So I said something about a test, and actually that's not completely accurate. As a matter of fact, you got 2 tests. There are 2 exams that stand between you and your real estate license. The first exam is the end of class exam. The last thing we do, the last day together that we spend, will be taking a final class exam. And in order to pass, you have to make a 75%. Once you pass this exam, then you're eligible to take your state exam. Again, I'll talk about this in just a second. What are we going to do for the next 2 months together is talk about what you need to know for your exams. Talk about what you need to know to get out of this class and talk about what you need to know for your state exam. Part of your homework for this week, I'm already giving you homework on day one. Part of your homework for this week, I need you guys to go calculator shopping. You have to have a basic calculator for your exams, both mine and your state exam. I can't let you use your phone. Why? Because your phone has Google on it. I can't let you use calculators that store formulas. That would be considered cheating. So I need you guys to go calculator shopping, a basic 10-key calculator. Go to Amazon, you'll have it here by Thursday. You go to Walgreens and get it this afternoon, whatever. If you have any questions about what calculator you should purchase, just send me a message. You have my email, you have my phone number. I can't let you use your calculator on your laptop either, or your MacBook or your device. I need you to have your own basic handheld. Everybody good with this? Everybody seeing mine? Very, very basic. No formulas, 10 keys. For my exam, you also have the option to take a retake. We'll talk more about that in just a second, or as we go, actually. But if you don't make a 75%, if you make at least a 50%, then you're eligible for the retake. Again, we'll talk about more on that in just 1 second. So the end of class exam is your first hurdle, okay? By passing the end of class exam, it prepares you for the state exam. So is everybody good with that? There are 2 tests that stand between you and your real estate license. What do you have to do to get your real estate license? You got to pass the end of class exam and you got to pass the state exam. National section, state section, we'll talk all about that as we go. I think what I want everybody to understand right now, 2 tests. And that's what our time together is for, is to prepare you guys for these exams. Everybody good so far? See some thumbs up? Assuming you're good. You don't have to give me a thumbs up. I can work with a thumbs down, but I prefer to see, I prefer to see thumbs up. Okay. So how do you pass these exams? Well, first off, the best thing you can do is do away with any distractions at home. How do you pass? What are the tools? You use the tools that you've been given. I know perfect class attendance is sometimes a stretch, but strive for it, shoot for it. Again, the most you can miss is 15 hours for any reason. So be here as much as you can. Your textbook, have you guys lifted this thing yet? This is like a little workout, isn't it? Who remembers the old phone books? Did you think you were getting a phone book when you got this in the mail? Guys, guess what? In our next 2 months together, we're pretty much going through this thing cover to cover. I don't skip much. So we utilize this textbook. If you haven't gotten yours yet, or you haven't made arrangements with Lane, just reach out to her. If you've been in communication with Lane, depending on when you registered, you may or may not have your book yet. But if you haven't communicated with her, please reach out to Lane. Okay. We also have an online platform, and you can just turn your camera off for a second there while you're doing that. Yep. Okay, yeah, somebody said they're not seeing the class. So sometimes when I share my screen, you have different views in Zoom, and you guys don't always see what I see. So you have different views in Zoom, and I think if you go to the top right, you can change your view, and maybe, is that right? And you can see your classmates, but sometimes that's distracting you guys. So sometimes only being able to see my screen is not a bad thing. Again, I'm all about minimizing distractions. Got it? Okay, good. Okay, so how else are we passing? Well, we also have a program called Learn, Test, Pass. So hang on to that for just a second. We're all going to get into Learn Test Pass all at the same time in just a minute. And the other thing I can think that helps you guys is to make your own flashcards or outlines or notes. You can take notes in class. And do you guys have a brand new notebook? I love the first day of school. We all get excited. I mean, we did it back when we were in school too. We ran out, new notebook, and wrote real estate on the front cover, you know, so we know what our notebook is for. You guys laugh because you know. So taking notes is very important during class, even as you're studying. I think it helps you guys to make your own flashcards. What word are you struggling with? What topic, what math formula are you struggling with? Having your own flashcards, because those flashcards you can take with you everywhere, anywhere you go, right? So when you're sitting at the doctor's office or, you know, whatever, when you're waiting to pick your kids up from school, you can use your flashcards. You can purchase flashcards, but personally, I think it means more if you make your own, because they're customized, they're tailored to you. So maybe when you're calculator shopping, you may want to pick you up some index cards. One of the best things you guys can do to help yourselves pass this, get through these exams, and I hope we've said this enough. One of the best things you guys can do is just listen. Just listen. And when you're distracted, it's hard to listen. Turn the TV off. Turn your other internet browsers, shut them down. Just by listening, you can, you know, get this material, help get you this material. As we all know, when we started, I hit record. I record every single class. Later today, I'm going to create our very own YouTube channel. Is that kind of cool? We're going to have our own YouTube channel. And after every class, I'm going to put the recording for that class in our YouTube channel. So when we come together on Thursday, I'll share the YouTube channel link with you guys so you can subscribe or save it or bookmark it or do whatever. So if you have to miss 15 minutes to do something, if you have to miss class, or if we go over something and you say, what in the heck was she talking about? You got the recording. You can go back and you can watch it at your own pace. So again, when we come together on Thursday, I'll share that YouTube channel with you guys so you can have all of our class recordings. And guys, I don't always remember to hit record. So if you ever see, you guys see, where's yours at the top left? Do you see the little cloud with the red dot? If you ever don't see that, please tell me. I'd rather have all of you tell me than none of you. So please just help me with that. I'm trying to get better, but it's not part of my habit every day. So listening, again, I can't stress this enough, doing away with distractions. You know, tell your family, I'm in class Tuesday, Thursday, 9 to 1, leave me alone. Okay. All right. I do want to hear from you guys, but I want to hear the right stuff from you guys. How many of you looked at the first 2 units before class today? Be honest with me. How many of you read the first 2 units? A couple of you, most of you. I know a few of you may not have your books yet, but it looks like most of you. Good. Keep that up. Looking ahead before we come to class is a really big help, because I don't stand here and read to you. I don't have time to stand here and read to you. We're going to talk about the material. I'm going to help you understand the material without reading it to you. So by you guys reading ahead, by you guys looking at it ahead, that'll help you know what we're getting ready to talk about in class. My job is to keep us on track. As I just said, guys, we got a lot of material to cover in a short amount of time. And part of my job is to keep us on track. And if we start getting off track, I may have to put us back on the right track. I may have to say something like, can we talk about this after class? Or can you send me an email about that? I'm not trying to be mean. Please let me say that up front. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm keeping us on track so we cover everything that you may be tested on both of your exams. Okay. So before you ask a question, you know, if you got yourself distracted and you didn't hear what I said, please don't come back and say, what did you just say? You got the recording. You can always go back on your own. They say, I'm not really sure who they are, but they say for every hour we spend in class, you guys should be spending 2 to 3 hours outside of class studying. Guys, I'm going to be very honest with you. These are hard tests. This is a tough material. This is a tough class. I need you guys to start today. So let's see, this class meets for 8 hours a week. If we meet for 8 hours a week, that means you guys should be studying 16 to 24 hours outside of class. I just gave you guys a part-time job, did I not? You got to commit. You got to commit. You got to start today. And the best way I know to commit is to schedule yourself some study time. Don't just sit there and say you'll study when you have time. Because you know, one thing that doesn't magically appear, magically happen, is time. You have to create the time. You have to set aside study time. No distraction. Go to your quiet place and set aside the 16 to 24 hours a week outside of class. Real estate career is about finding balance, a work balance, family balance, study balance. And I think that's what part of this job does, this class does, is help prepare you guys for a real estate career, prepare you for that balance. So we're studying 16 to 24 hours. We're going to put time in our calendars when we can study and honor that commitment to yourself. If you schedule 3 hours for Saturday, that's an appointment. Honor that commitment to yourself. And one thing, what do we study, Julie? I hear you. What do we study? So we're getting there. One thing I think you guys can really do after class is some reflection. What did we talk about today? What was my aha moment? What was the thing that Julie said that I just really had no idea what she was talking about? Kind of do some reflection after class, each class, and ask yourself these questions. What is it that I need to work on? What is it that I'm not certain with, that I'm not struggling with? Again, you got the recording, you got your textbook. We're all getting ready to get into Learn, Test, Pass. There's lots of material for you guys to help you guys be successful, but you got to commit. You got to put the time in it to commit. Said my goal, my only goal is to get you guys through this state exam. If it's not on the state exam, we're not talking about it. That's our focus. And I'd like to keep you guys out of real estate jail once you do have your license. So we'll talk about, again, as we go, how to keep you out of real estate school. So real estate really is an adventure. My question to you is, are you guys ready? Are you guys hanging in there with me? Are you guys ready to do this? Are we excited to do this? Are we motivated? Cool. Any questions so far? Comments, concerns? And you can either type in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Okay. So let's talk about this Learn, Test, Pass. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So you guys should all be looking at each other again. And I am getting ready to put a link in the chat. So while I'm doing this, if you want to pull up your chat, your Zoom bar, I'm going to put this link in the chat. And I want everybody to just click on the link or copy and paste the link and then wait. Click on the link or copy and paste the link and then wait. Don't do anything else. We're going to go through this together step by step so I can get all 46 of you in at the same time. So copy and paste or click and then just wait. Does anybody not see the link? Okay. So we all have the link, it looks like. Does everybody see the big red button on the website you just opened that says enroll for free? Enroll. Do we like free? Yeah, we do. So everybody see where it says enroll for free. Click on that and then just wait. Don't get ahead of me because this is where we're going to divide. Now you see a sign up to enroll. Everybody where I'm at? Again, if you're having problems with, Jane or I are available outside of class. We'll get you in today. It may not be at this very moment in time, but we will get you in today. Under sign up for enroll, it says email. Put in your email address. If you have taken a class with Carolina School of Real Estate before, if you're not new to Carolina School of Real Estate, you put in your email and it should prompt you for your password. If you're new to Carolina School of Real Estate, you'll do your email, first and last name, agree to the terms and conditions, click on sign up, and then it should prompt you to create your password. So you're doing one of two things. You're either creating a new account or you're connecting with your existing account. Some of you have taken a class with us before and you may have another instructor. I want you connecting to my Learn Testpass now. So that's why we're clicking on the enroll for free. That's why we're going through this to make sure I have everybody. And once you're in, you can tell me in the chat that you're in. If you're having problems, you can tell me in the chat or reach out to me outside of class. And in just a second, I'll show you what you should be seeing once you're in. And it looks like I'm seeing most of you on. So this is good. This is exciting. Thank you for the explanation points. I feel you. This is exciting. Connected, you're in. Good. Of course, I have no way of seeing if I have heard from anybody yet. But if you're having problems, let me know either now or get with Jane or I outside of class. So now that I've heard from a lot of you, I'm going to share my screen again, which means what you're doing might go away, depending on your device. And what you should be looking at looks something like this. Okay, if you haven't made it this far yet, just reach out to Jane or I after class. So Learn Testpass is our online platform. I have all sorts of fun stuff in Learn Testpass for us. I have additional quizzes, practice quizzes. I have some Q&A brochures. I have the forms that we're going to discuss in this class. We're going to look at actual real estate forms in this class, agency agreements, and offer to purchase and contract. So any of the forms that we talk about, we have in Learn Testpass. So we'll use this a lot. I'll be logged in every day. This is not the right one. Hang on. You guys are right. I'm not. You guys are good. Sharing my screen again. Okay, now I'm good too. Just to point out a couple things. Here's our tentative schedule. I have two classes going on right now, day class and a night class. So make sure you guys are looking at your day class schedule. These are all the dates that we're going to meet. and this is the material we're going to cover that day. So remember, I just said you need to look ahead before we get to class. This is how you know what to look at. What do I look at before class on Tuesday? It's in the tentative schedule. Now we're, may get a little off of this, but we'll stick pretty closely to it. I think it's important that you guys notice that here after Unit 6, we start getting out of order. I don't go in order of the textbook. I'll talk about what order I go in just a second. So again, why do I have this here for you guys? Why do I make sure that you guys know that what we're going to cover? Because I don't go in order of the textbook. That would be too boring. I have our final exam as our last class together, which is March 8th. And I've also gone ahead and scheduled our retake. So please go ahead and get this date in your calendar, pencil it in. Maybe you need it, maybe you don't, I don't know. But I want you to go ahead and pencil it in, because if you don't pass the end of class exam and you're eligible for the retake, this is the date and time. Okay, so we have a retake on March 11th if you're eligible, 9 o'clock in the morning. Again, we'll talk about all the tests in the retake. So the retake, that's right. The retake is, I think your exam is on a Tuesday, so the retake will be that Friday. Yep. And I also want you guys to put in a couple dates. We got some cram courses available to you. Other instructors are going to offer a couple cram courses. Again, I'll talk more about this as we go. This is completely up to you. This is not a requirement. They won't take attendance. Won't know if you're there or not. But this is, a week or so before your exam to help you get ready. And again, I'll talk more about it. But I just want you guys getting these dates in your schedule. Pencil them in so you know they're there. So I mentioned earlier that I don't follow the book. So what do I follow? I follow the syllabus. And we have the syllabus for you in the welcome section of Learn Testpass. The Real Estate Commission says, if we know what's on the syllabus, you will be prepared for your state exam. So what do I follow? I follow the syllabus. If you want to know what we're going to cover, Julie, are we going to talk about this? Julie, are we going to talk about that? I'm not answering those questions. Those questions are in the syllabus. What are we going to talk about? It's all right here. You can print it. I mean, this thing is like 119 pages, so you might want to save a tree and just refer back to Learn Testpass. But this is our guide. This class was written with the syllabus in my hand. So this is our guide. This is what we're going to go by. And again, I have it in the welcome section here for you and Learn Testpass. Questions or comments so far? How we doing? I'm checking in with everybody. How we doing? We doing good. Let's see. Is it Demario? Am I saying that right? Demario, your hand's up. Do you have a question? Your virtual hand is up. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Don't know. Let's see. Do I have that kind of Zoom power? Hang on. Look at me. I can do all sorts of things in Zoom. Y'all don't underestimate Zoom power. So being familiar with the syllabus, again, this is what we're talking about. This is how we're preparing you for that state exam. Okay. While I'm here, before I go back to my PowerPoint, this is the email you guys got from Lane. So this is the email that you use to click on the link to come to class. Again, the class dates are listed here as well. So you have two different places. You have the tentative schedule, and then you have the email. And then this is the Zoom link that you use every single class. So again, my suggestion is you create a folder in your email and put it over there. Christina said she just asked a question, and no, we could not hear you, Christina. Where is it? You guys bear with me. You are on 2 different pages, and I'm just getting ready to know everybody. So I'm looking for Christina. Of course, you don't know if you're on page 1 or page 2, so that makes it. Huh. There she is. Yeah, it doesn't look like your mic's working because your little mute thing is off. So I should be able to hear you. So you might want to get with if you know, if you don't know, then you might want to get with Jane. She's our tech person, and she's good about troubleshooting. So Christina, for the time being, if you have a question, if you'll just put that in the chat until we can get your mute working, or your unmute working, I guess, your mic. Okay, and if you're just joining us and I had a couple come on, make sure your cameras are on. If you missed the welcome, I'm recording. You can go back and watch that later. I did, but you should still have the power to override that. So cameras are on at all times. I know we'll need a few reminders, especially after breaks and stuff. You guys look at your device that you're on right now. Do you see a little light? Do you see a little light on your device? That should tell you that your camera's on. So if you're ever not sure if your camera's on or not, look for the light. Okay. All right, so we're all in Learn, Test, Pass. If not, you're just reaching out to me or Jane. We'll get you in, rest assured. And we will be in Learn, Test, Pass every class for our time together. Every single class, we're in Learn, Test, Pass. It's a plethora of information. So I have a homework assignment for you guys. And truth be told, this is the only homework assignment you guys will have to turn in to me. We'll talk about other things you can do on your own. But the only thing you have to turn in to me is I want an introduction. I want an introduction. I want a selfie with you in your textbook. The Real Estate Commission requires me to verify that you have the current textbook. So what's a fun way I thought to come up to do with it? Send me a selfie with yourself and your introduction. Tell me about yourself. Where are you from? Why are you here? Why do you want this? How super motivated are you? Don't do it now. I would consider that a distraction. So you can wait and do it after class. This is probably my favorite part of the first day, is learning about you guys. If I receive your text or email, I will respond eventually. There's like 46 of you and 1 of me, so give me just a minute after class. Even if I already know you, please still send me your introduction with your textbook, your selfie with your textbook. For those of you that just went, oh no, I didn't write down her name and phone number when she told me to, there you go. One more time. How do you get in touch with me? There's my phone number, my email address. Whatever your preference is, it makes no difference to me. Okay. This is the only thing you have to turn into me this whole entire class. So I've given you 2 things to do so far. You're going to go calculator shopping. We're actually going to start math on Thursday. So you got to go calculator shopping. And then I want your selfie with your textbook and your introduction. Introduce yourself to me. Tell me about yourself. Okay. So let's understand a few things before we get too involved. Again, this class is required by the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. The North Carolina Real Estate Commission is the governing body that regulates your license. Upon satisfactory completing their exams, you will get your real estate license. And it's important that we understand the Real Estate Commission's main purpose is not to give you your license. It's not to help you in your career and help you make lots and lots of money. The main purpose of the Real Estate Commission is to protect the public when they're dealing with you. So all the laws, all the rules, everything that we're doing in this class is to understand the commission stance, where the commission's coming from, and to protect the public and the real estate dealings. A couple of you just reminded me in chat that you don't have your textbook yet, and that's fine. You can do your homework assignment once you get your book. You don't necessarily have to do it today. Just make yourself a note to remember to do that when you do get your book. Thank you for that. I know day one, it's getting everybody going. So the Real Estate Commissions protect the public. That's why they designed this class. That's why they put you guys through this 2 tests and making sure that you have the minimum competency to work with their public. They're not just going to hand everybody a license and let them run amok on the street. Let's understand what we're dealing with here, you guys. You're helping buyers buy and sellers sell. Think about the price tags that are attached to homes. Think about this. And once a buyer buys, there are no takebacks. This isn't Amazon Prime. They don't have 30 days to return it. Once that deed records, it's a done deal. And the public is relying on us to help them get through this transaction, presumably one of the biggest purchases you'll ever make until you sell it and buy another one, right? So making sure we get our clients through the transaction is what we do. It's not about going out and looking at pretty houses and, you know, taking pictures. And I mean, that's part of it, but there's much, much more involved in that. Once you get your license, understand that there's further education. Now, we'll talk a lot about this later, but I think it's important that we understand the Real Estate Commission. They provide this pre-licensing class. They also have post-licensing. Once you get your license, you'll have 90 additional hours of post-licensing that is required. They break that down into 3 30-hour classes. So once you get your license, you have post-licensing, and then we do continuing education every year. Every year you want an active license. We do 8 hours, 4 hours each. So 2 classes a year. Again, all required by the Real Estate Commission. Continuing education is the Real Estate Commission way of making sure we all have the current information. Laws change, rules change, forms change. The only thing consistent in this industry is change. I guarantee you something will change somewhere along the line, sooner rather than later. So it's important that we have our CE, our continuing education, so we're always current. Pre-licensing, post-licensing, and CE are the only thing required by the Real Estate Commission. There's other training, there's other education. When you affiliate with a firm, they'll provide training, they'll provide education. This is day 1. Again, we'll talk more about post and CE as we go. And the last thing I want to say before we take our break and really get started. When you guys start looking at your test questions, which we will look at after this first break, but I want you to make a note of this. I want you guys to be on the lookout for absolute words. Is there much wiggle room to absolute words? When you say always, you mean what? Every single time. When you say must, is there an exception to must? Part of what we're going to do this first week, today and then again on Thursday, you guys can be honest with me. I'll say it first. It's been a long time since I sat in a classroom as a student. Has it been a minute for anybody else since you sat in a classroom? Has it been a minute since you took a test? So part of what I want to do here at the beginning is help remind you guys how to study, help remind you guys how to look at test questions. I try not to throw you in the deep end. So I'll throw you in the shallow end. Let's just swim to the deep end. But we're going to look at, again, when we get back from break, we're going to talk about how you guys can start reading these test questions, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, these tests are really hard. And what makes them hard is, one, because this is a lot of information. And it's information that you have to know really well. A lot of your exams are application exams, which mean questions, I should say. A lot of your questions are application questions, which means they're not going to say, what's this word mean? They're going to give you a scenario and expect you to apply it to the situation. So not only do we have to know what it means, but we have to be able to understand it and apply it. And the second thing that makes test taking so hard is understanding the dang question, dissecting the question and getting to the root of that. So that's what we're going to start off. Hopefully I can get you guys started on the right foot. Okay. First hour, everybody's doing good. How are you guys feeling? You guys feeling good? What questions? Again, this is the basis of the class. I think I mentioned earlier, I'm a start on time kind of gal. So I take attendance at 9 a.m. We come back from break, we get 10 minutes. How do we know when we have a 10-minute break? Because I provide you with a countdown clock. So that way we have no confusion about how long a 10-minute break is. Okay, when we come back from 10-minute break, I'll take attendance. If you want me to count you here, I've got to be able to see you. It's that simple. Okay, so let's go ahead and take our first break. You can turn your camera off for break. You'll need to turn it back on when we're done. So let's take 10. When we come back, we'll meet our textbook. So that's our 10-minute break. So if you're back, let's turn your cameras on and I will take attendance. And as you guys are coming back, let me find, make sure Christina's back.
Yes.
Did I just hear something? There she is. So the question, she's trying to get across, and a good question, thank you. The question came in about the cram courses. Yes, I will send you, I will give you guys Zoom links like the week before those cram courses. They're different instructors, so you will need different links. So I absolutely will provide that information, but I'm not going to do it now because that's still weeks away. Again, if your inbox looks anything like mine, I know what happens to stuff. So thank you for that. Okay. All right.
I have my microphone fixed.
Oh, good. One down, one to go. Good. All right. So cameras are on. I'm getting ready to take attendance. So look up. Do you see the light? If not, turn your camera on. And actually what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen for 1 second. And I want you guys to all, if you have your book, go ahead and grab your book. Let's meet your book. Again, I know this thing is it's a paperweight, but let's go ahead and just do a few things. If you haven't, then you can come back once you do get your book and get caught up. But just to kind of introduce you to your book, let's all, start at the beginning. Let's all look at page 1 together. Page 1, unit 1. Welcome back. If you're just coming back and you missed attendance, all you have to do is tell me in the chat. All you guys have to do is communicate with me. I don't know what I don't know, So communicate with me so I know. So page 1, we're getting ready to get into unit 1 in just a second. The beginning of every unit has key terms. You guys see where I'm at? Key terms. The basics, the 101 of it is knowing what the words mean. If you look at these key terms and by the time we're done after class, and you know what these words mean, then you're one step closer. If you don't know what the word means, what do? Look it up, research it, go back and watch class, find it in the book. There's a glossary in the back of your book. I'll point it out in just a second. You also have this phenomenal tool called Google. So if you're really stuck on something, try Googling it. And of course, you always have me. You always have me as a resource. That's why I'm here, is to help. But if you call me and say, Julie, what does this word mean? What do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to tell you to look it up because it means more to you if you look it up. So knowing what the words mean is step 1. Now let's fast forward and let's look at page 15. The end of every unit has a key point review. Let's call this the Cliffs Notes. Okay, use the Cliffs Notes. Use the key point review as kind of the checklist. I'm good on land. I'm good on real estate. I'm good. Oh, I don't remember exactly what real property was about. You guys with me? And if you don't know exactly what real property is about, what are you going to do? Go back and look it up. Remember, we talked about this self-reflection after every class, is reflecting every class. I think the key terms and the key point review is a great way to reflect. If we've covered it and you're still not sure about it, go back and review it. Go back and watch the video. Go back to your textbook. Make a flashcard out of it. Let's flip over to page 17. The end of every unit in our textbook also has a unit quiz. How do you know if you're retaining this information? You got the unit quizzes. There's also quizzes for each unit and learn Testpass. Now I said we're going to do a little math on Thursday. Part of the math we're going to do on Thursday is helping you guys know how to grade yourself. If you're gauging yourself as we go, if you're grading yourself, there should be no surprises on test day. If you failed an end of unit exam, go back and do that unit again. You guys with me? This is how you can study. You're going over and over and over again. Guys, we move fast in this class. Again, this whole book in about 2 months. So what happens is you guys, a lot of you have told me you read the first 2 units, and I think that's great. But what happens is you don't always set aside that proper time to study. And then we keep going and you get behind. And you know how hard it is when you get behind to get caught up? Because while you're trying to get caught up, I do what? I keep going. I don't have time usually to go back. That's why I make myself available to you guys outside of class. Okay. If I got to get the whole class through this material to prepare you guys for your exams, we keep going. So this is why we provide you the tools. One suggestion I have when you're taking the quizzes at the end of each unit is to not mark in your book. So take a separate scratch piece of paper and write number 1 is A, number 2 is B, number 3 is C, because that way you have these unit quizzes to go back and do before your exams. You can take them over and over and over again. But once you write in your book that the answer is C, that quiz doesn't do you any good. You guys know what I'm saying? So I want you to write in your book. I want you to write all over your book, except for these end of unit quizzes. My suggestion is to keep these blank so you'll have them, because in 2 months from now, you guys are going to be like, what was unit 1 about? So this way you have that material that you can keep going over and reviewing again, okay, to prepare you for those exams. A couple other things to point out. Let's go way to the back. Let's look at page. Let's look at page 773. Well, actually 771. How many of you, when I said math a little bit ago, thought I just said a 4-letter word that I shouldn't be saying out loud in public on the first day that we met each other? Yeah, huh? I hear you guys. Guys, there's math in this class. There's math on both of your exams. We try to provide you several different ways to get through it. I do offer math tutoring. It is way too early for anybody to do math tutoring, but just put that in the back of your mind somewhere. If math isn't your thing, I need you to break your wall down. If you're sitting here telling me I can't do the math, then you're probably right and there's nothing I can do about it. But if you're willing to give it a chance, if you're willing to give it a try, you just might surprise yourself. And if math isn't your thing, I don't know if math is your thing or not. You guys were in middle school, high school. Think back, did you struggle through the math? If so, math may not be your thing. And you may want to look at this math facts section. It starts with on 773 is a little introduction to calculators. There's measurement problems. We're going to do some measuring, a little bit of measuring in section 2. Again, I wouldn't study this math facts, but just flip through it as a good refresher, especially if it's been a minute since you've been in a math class. 781 is fractions, decimals, percentages. How do you convert a percentage to a decimal and a decimal back to a percentage? If you're rusty on that stuff, you have the tools here in your textbook to help refresh you, to help get you started. And like I said, we're going to start math on Thursday. So, you know, come prepared. Look at page 831. There's your glossary. Again, oh, I don't know what that word means. What do? Do you just say, oh, well, and move on? I hope not. Look it up. Learn it. Put it on a flashcard. The things that you're real, this is why I want you guys to customize your flashcards. I think it means more when it comes from you. And then the last thing, or the next to last thing, I think I skipped something. Nope, 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 I'm good. Page 861. Page 861 is your answer key for all of the end of unit exams. So once you take the end of unit exam, you come back here and grade yourself. Again, I'll tell you on Thursday how you can determine if you passed or failed. Did you make a 75% or better on that end of unit exam? And you guys see, like, number 1 says C, and then in parentheses, it has a 2. That number in parentheses is telling you what page number in the book you can find that information. So if you get a question wrong, look it up. Not only what is the right answer, but why did you answer the way that you did? What did you do to get yourself crossed? So you got your reference to your page numbers. And then the last thing, just because we're here, on page 879, is an index. So if you want to know everywhere in the book that we talk about, for example, I don't know, accrued items, there are the pages. So again, if you're really trying to figure something out, and then after that is the cover. So when I say we go through this thing cover to cover, I mean, we go through it cover to cover. We're getting ready to start in just a second. So we refer to your book, we refer to Learn Test Pass. You have your YouTube channel, your class notes. It's really easy to find time to do in that, what do we say, 16 to 24 hours a week outside of class that you guys are studying, if you just use the tools that we've given you. If you're ever stuck, that's why I'm here. Never hesitate to reach out to me. Nothing hurts me more than when you guys show up on test day and say, I never really understood that. Nothing hurts me more than when you guys say that. I'm here, just shy of giving you my home address and inviting you over for dinner tonight. I gave you every possible way to get in touch with me. Somebody came in and asked about Travis Everett videos. Travis Everett is an instructor down in Raleigh, and he also records. He was like the OG of recording and putting on YouTube. He did that before Zoom was a thing for us. So if you want to search Travis Everett, he does have his videos. I caution you guys from going just in general to Google, because there's a lot of information on the internet. And I sometimes fear you guys aren't always finding correct information. So if you go to Google for study tools, if you've done the book and you've done Learn Test Pass and you've done our YouTube channel and you've done Travis's YouTube channel, and you still want more to study, please come to me or Lane. Please don't go to Google. Guys, there's a lot of wrong information out there on the internet. I had a young lady in a class once, she went to Google and she just searched pre-licensing, and she came to me and she was so confused, she was in tears. And I said, my goodness, what is going on? And asked a few questions, dug a little deeper. Come to find out, she was studying, she was watching YouTube videos on Florida state law. So I'm over here talking about North Carolina state law. She's watching Florida. Of course she was confused, the poor thing. So that's why I just caution you guys, before you go to Google, please come to Lane or I first and let us see what else we can recommend. Fair enough? I want you guys to do well. Questions or comments about your book? Okay, so Candace, yeah, I know Candace too. I can validate Candace. She does math on YouTube, great. Okay. Let me see, have I said everything I need to say? Commit, study, and have fun. I don't know another way. I like having fun, so I try to have fun as often as I can. Candace Ellis, it should be in the If you look above here from Diego. Everett. Travis Everett, Candace Ellis. Textbook, Learn Testpass, our class YouTube channel. Do you think you have enough to help you for 16 to 24 hours a week? If you're doing what we say you should be doing.
And I'm assuming you'll send us like an email link of the YouTube, correct?
So when we come together on Thursday, yep, I'll give you our YouTube channel. Yep. I haven't created it yet because I got to have a video to put in. So after class today, I'll create it and put it in, and then we'll share that on Thursday. Somebody asked about Prep Agent. Personally, I'm not familiar with them. I can't validate that website, but I have heard other students use it, but I don't know the accuracy of it. I can't validate the internet. Okay, but you guys don't get ahead of yourselves. I'm telling you, there's a whole lot of information out there. What should you focus on to get started? Textbook, Learn Testpass, YouTube channel. Okay. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. And we're getting closer to get started on Unit 1. Y'all just kind of ready to get started? Before we do that, though, I do just want to take 1 second and kind of tell you what you're going to see in my PowerPoints. So every single one of my PowerPoints has a star on it. And it's either a red star, a yellow star, or a green star. The stars correspond to the levels in the syllabus. The syllabus doesn't give us stars. The syllabus gives us level 1 material, level 2 material, and level 3 material. I just put a star next to it because I think it looks better than level 1, level 2, and level 3. So as you're going through the syllabus and you see level 1 is basic knowledge, know what the word means. Level 2 is a comprehension, further understanding of it. Level 3, I mean, you should be able to teach this material to somebody else. You have that thorough of an understanding of it that you can explain it to somebody else in a way that they'll understand it. So every single one of my PowerPoints has a different color star on it to help guide you in the right direction. When you're calculator shopping this afternoon, you may also want to buy some highlighters. You can get a green one, a yellow one, and pink or orange. So you can help identify the level of importance. The good news is we're getting ready to do Unit 1, and all of Unit 1 is a green star. So we're going to start out easy. You gotta warm up before you run a marathon, yes? So Unit 1 is our warm up. The rest of the class is our marathon. Get ready to run. Also, my PowerPoints, I do have the page numbers of the textbook. So if you want to follow along, we'll see that in the bottom right in just a second. So if you want to follow along with the textbook, all of my PowerPoints are in Learn Testpass, or are coming in Learn Testpass. I think I only have the first 6 units or so. I'll get the rest in, never fear. But all of my PowerPoints are in Learn Testpass. My fear, if you guys are trying to write down every single word on my PowerPoint, what aren't you doing? You're not listening. So I provide you with my PowerPoints as an attempt for you to know that you already have it. If you just want to take notes, if you just want to say, oh, I need to refer back to page 2 because I don't understand. Does that make sense to everybody? You may choose to write it down. I can't tell you how to study. I don't know how you learn. You can choose to try to write it down, but I don't want you to feel like you have to, because you have all of my PowerPoints available to you. And remember, you also have the recording. The PowerPoints are meant to direct you where in the textbook you need to focus. If you think you're just going to study my PowerPoints alone, you probably won't do well on the test. They're meant to direct you to that area of the textbook to focus. Also on my PowerPoints, if I had previous problem topics, the Real Estate Commission has provided us with problem topics. So I try to point those out with a red arrow that says PT. This stands for problem topic. If you see a PT, what should that tell you? Study it really, really well, right? Know it. And we also have state and national specific content. The national content is what all states across the country study. Things that are specific just to North Carolina are labeled with our flag to help us understand things that are state specific. If you look in your book again, and I just opened up a random page, look on page 318. I just opened up a random page. Do you see on 318 near the bottom in the left-hand margin, it says in North Carolina? In North Carolina, what should that tell you? That's something specific to North Carolina. That is something specific to us. So again, we're just helping point out this information. So that's kind of the gist of how this class is going to look. Again, Unit 1 will give us a really good, we'll get started in we'll get through Unit 1 in just a minute, actually, and then we'll get started on Unit 2. So hopefully, I know most of you said you read the first couple units. Unit 1 is our warm-up. If you've looked at Unit 2, aren't there some crazy ideas? Aren't there some bizarre things in Unit 2, things that you've probably never, ever seen before? And I think that's why it's important to look ahead before you come here. So you look ahead and you go, wow, that's bizarre. And then we talk about it in class. That helps sort it out here. And that helps prepare you for both of your exams. My whole job, the reason I stand before you, is to prepare you for that state exam. On a side note, I want to keep you out of trouble once you do get your license. And that's what we're going to spend the next 2 months talking about. So again, if you thought you were coming here today to learn how to be a top producing real estate agent, I am very sorry to disappoint you. I'm giving you the tools and the foundation that you need to grow your career, to grow your business. Fair enough? What questions or comments do I have? I don't have my chat up. Oh dear, I might have missed something. I apologize. Nope, we're good. What questions or comments do we have? Are y'all just ready to get started? Stop talking, Julie. Let's just get going. Everybody good? I like seeing thumbs ups. Head bobs, I'll take those too. Head bobs are good. Some sort of recognition that you guys are here. Again, this is the big difference in Zoom and online. And I'm impressed. A good handful of you are new to Zoom. So lots of firsts today. Okay, well, let's do this. So Unit 1, again, is our warm-up. Everything in Unit 1 is a green star. So everybody, let's just take a big deep breath together. You ready? Doesn't that feel nice? Breathing is important. Please remember to breathe. Breathing is important. Everything in Unit 1 is a green star. A lot of stuff in Unit 1 we're going to talk about later in future units. That's where we're going to start seeing yellow and red stars. But Unit 1 is our warm-up just to get us going. And our learning objectives in Unit 1, we're going to distinguish between land, real estate, real property. We're going to talk a little bit about personal property. We'll get more into real property and personal property in Unit 2. We're going to talk about the physical characteristics of real property and the economic characteristics of real property. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about something called the highest and best use, what that is and what it means. And there's pluses and minuses to everything, right? And that does include buying real estate. There are pluses and minuses to real estate. And then we're lastly in Unit 1 going to talk about supply and demand and how it relates to us, what that means to us as real estate agents. So starting on page 2 of your book, please note a couple things before you'll see my green star at the top right, where you see all stars. And then on the bottom right, you see the page number. So where am I getting this information? This PowerPoint is meant to drive you to page 2 of your textbook. Everybody see what we're doing? Everybody good with this? Having you follow along? So the first thing we need to do is distinguish between real property and personal property. Real property is land and everything that's permanently attached to it. It includes the rights that an owner of that real property has. We'll talk more about real property in just a minute when we get into Unit 2. Personal property is defined as everything that's not real property. It's not permanently attached. It's movable. You can pick it up and carry it away. So let me ask you guys this. There's a myth out there on the streets. Maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't. But there's a myth out there on the streets that says, nothing you learn in pre-licensing is going to help you in your career. That's just a waste. You got to get through it, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if you've heard that yet or not, but I hear it all the time. Pre-licensing, nah, nothing you learn is applicable. Day 1, slide 1. Do you think it's important to know if you're working with buyers? Do you think it's important to explain to your buyers what's going to stay and what's going to go? Do you think your buyers look at stuff and say, if I buy this house, is this included? If I buy this house, does this convey? Yeah. And I'm seeing lots of head nods. So you guys get it. Day 1, slide 1. Some of pre-licensing you may never see again in your career. Again, we're building your foundation. Think about the foundation of a house. Do you see the entire foundation? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Same thing with your career. But it is so important that we understand what stays and what goes when the property's sold. And again, we'll talk more about this in Unit 2. Already ran out of ink. I got somebody getting a new pen already. It happens. At least you're not getting a new notebook yet, right? All right. So let's talk more about real property. And to build up to real property, let's just first define land. Land is the surface, everything above it known as our air rights, which we'll talk about in Unit 2, and everything below it known as our subsurface rights. Land includes everything that is attached to it by nature, trees, ponds, lake, anything that is attached by nature. And once you add the physical improvement to land, you now have real estate. So once you build a structure or a fence or a shed or garage or sidewalk, once you add the physical, once man comes in and adds the physical improvement, you now have real estate. And when you're looking at real estate and you add the owner's rights, all owners of real property have certain rights that comes with that ownership, known as their bundle of rights. We'll talk about bundle of rights in Unit 2. Once you add the rights of the owner to the real estate, then you have real property. Now, land, real estate, real property can sometimes be used interchangeably. Trust me, for your exam, they'll be clear. But I'm talking about in the real world for a second. Can be used interchangeably sometimes. But at the beginning, here while we're learning, it's important that we understand the distinction of the three: land, real estate, and real property. So we'll see this again in Unit 2. Pages 4 to 5, we talk about the physical characteristics of real property. What are things that, the physical characteristics that define real property? And the first characteristics that we have, real property is immobile. It is where it is. It's the geographical location of that parcel of land. When I think of immobility, I always think when you do a Google map search and you get the little red flag, that's your immobile. That is where it is, right? Whenever you're looking for, and it gives you that little red flag in Google, it's immobile. Land is indestructible. Structures come and go. Fences come and go. Sheds come and go. But land throughout the years is indestructible. It's permanent. And real property is also unique. No two parcels of land are exactly the same. Side by side, there are differences. There are differences in the lay of the land, topography. Is there a tree? All land, all homes are unique. There's not one and the same. When you guys get out there, start working with buyers and sellers, every single transaction is different than the one you did before. Think about this. Every house, every buyer, and every seller are different. Yes. And the combination of those three make for a unique transaction every single time. So our physical characteristics of real property. We also have our economic characteristics of real property. And I like to think of these using the mnemonic SLIP. So our characteristics of real, excuse me, our economic characteristics of real property. Scarcity. Land is scarce. There's only so much land to go around, right? We can't create land. Ever wonder why oceanfront property? Well, what did you just do? There you go. Ever wonder why oceanfront property is more expensive? Because it's scarce, it's more rare. There's only so many homes you can put up and down the ocean. The value of land is always changing. Populations increase, sometimes populations decrease. People move in and out of cities and towns. Another economic characteristic of why do you keep doing that? Another economic characteristic is location. What are the three most important things of real estate? Have y'all ever heard this? What are the three most important things about real estate? Location, location, location. That's not a myth. That is very, very true. Location is everything. Value changes as you change location. A home in Winston-Salem, you can take the exact same home, pick it up, move it to Greensboro, and it's going to have a different value. Why? Because you've changed the location. Improvements on the property. Any additions or changes to the land. May that be a structure. May that be sidewalks, sewer systems. Installing utilities, electricity, Google fiber optics. All that are improvements to the land that affect the value of the land. And then permanence of investment. Improvements are considered, they're a long-term investment. Real estate was never meant to be a short-term investment. Structures, again, come and go. Older structures sometimes need to go, so we can make room for newer structures. One thing that never changes, though, is the land. The land will always be there. We mentioned earlier about this thing called highest and best use. We're going to talk about highest and best use in Unit 17. In Unit 17, we're going to learn what the appraiser does. How does the appraiser determine value? And one thing that the appraiser will always look at is the highest and best use. It's the most profitable use to which the property is currently being used. Highest and best uses can and does change over time. but we can only have one highest and best use at a time. The appraiser will always determine what is the highest and best use. Now, does that mean you could use the property for something else? Of course you could, but the appraisal will tell us what is the most, the highest and best use, the most profitable use we can use this land for. You know, one thing I didn't do earlier, why don't you guys set your chat? This is always interesting to me. You guys set your chat to everyone. Why don't you tell everyone where you're from? What city are you in right now taking this class? And y'all watch this. Ooh, the Outer Banks, I just turned green with envy. I was just there a couple weeks ago. Pofftown, Charlotte, Sims, I'm not familiar with. Winston, Taylorsville, Clemens, Morgantown up in the mountains, you're really cold. High Point, Laurenburg, you're down east. Louisville, Greensboro. Whoa, you're really up there. Manhattan, Fayetteville. So one thing Zoom has done is kind of open us up. We're all over the place right now. I'm in Archdale, North Carolina. So I'm Southern High Point, I guess is how you would call me. I'm LA. I think they call me Lower Archdale because I'm below 85. That's what they call me, LA. So my point to this, Rocky Mountain, my point to this is we all are in different places, and I think it's fun to see where we're all at, but we're all in different places. It's safe to say somewhere near where you live, there's some kind of retail shopping center, right? Some kind of place you can, you know, maybe grab lunch and do some shoe shopping or something, right? Right. Do you think that retail shopping center was always there? Do you think that's been there since the beginning of time? I would be willing to bet at some point that retail shopping center was maybe a field, agricultural, maybe for corn or wheat, for example. At that time, farming was its highest and best use, but things changed. Maybe the highway came in, maybe infrastructure, maybe the city built around it. Today, it's a retail center and it's not a farm. Why? Because today, its highest and best use is that retail. That's how they can profit most from the property. That's how they can capitalize most from the property. If you buy that property, could you tear down the retail and plant corn? Of course you can. It's your property. You can do what you want, but you're not maximizing its highest and best use. Okay, so we'll talk more about that in Unit 17. When we also talk about land, we'll talk about land use controls. This is all Unit 6. So when we get to Unit 6, we're going to talk about zoning as our public land use controls. And if you're in an HOA, you have private controls, you have restrictive covenants, you have declarations, you have things that restrict how you can use the land within your HOA. So we'll talk about all of, land use controls in Unit 6 when we get there. Maybe you do have to rezone, maybe you don't. It depends. We'll talk about that. Okay. So let's talk about real estate as an investment. As we said, there's good and bad to everything, right? Almost everything. So some advantages of purchasing real estate: why don't you get a good rate of return in the right market? I don't know if you guys have tried to sell or buy a house in the last couple of years, but we are big time in a seller's market. Big time in a seller's market. If you're a buyer, you are hurting right now. It's tough to be a buyer right now. I always think of the real estate market as a pendulum. And we're always moving. We're from a seller's market to a buyer's market. Well, you know, a couple of years ago, we were way up here in a seller's market. It's starting to come down a little bit. It's happening. We're seeing it. Somewhere down the road, we're going to be in a buyer's market. If you're in a buyer's market trying to sell, you may not get a good rate of return. You may need to wait until that pendulum swings back where you can get more. Values tend to keep pace with inflation. Inflation follows the market. When times are good in the economy, real estate's good. When times are not so good in the economy, real estate's not so good. So values tend to keep pace. And if you own real estate, you may have some possible tax advantages. One thing I am not is an accountant. I can't tell you what those tax advantages are. That's another thing we're going to learn in this class, is staying in our lane. I'm just a real estate agent. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an appraiser. I'm not a surveyor. I'm not a home inspector. I am just a real estate agent. So we need to know when to advise our buyers to seek other help, to talk to an accountant or an attorney, etc. Disadvantages. Real estate is not liquid. Who can tell me what I mean by that?
You can't get funds like quickly.
Exactly. If something's liquid, it means you can get immediate cash. Real estate is not liquid. I can get cash for it, but I probably got to put on the market and advertise and find a buyer, and we can close in like 4 to 6 weeks, something like that, right? If I need money today, I'm not getting it out of my real estate. I'm not getting out of my property. If I need money today, as somebody said, I'm cashing in my stocks. I'm cashing in my bonds. So you got to plan out with real estate. Sometimes real estate can get expensive because, as we just said, we need to know when to seek legal counsel. We need to know when to seek tax, a CPA, accountant. Unless you are a CPA, unless you are an attorney, we can't give that information. Your clients may have to spend money to get that information. Stay in your lane. With real estate, it's work involved to grow your money. You can't purchase a home, not do any repair to it for the next 20 years, turn around and sell it, expect to make a profit. Real estate is an investment, and you have to grow. Every once in a while, you got to put a new roof on it. Every once in a while, you got to, I don't know, paint or, do whatever you do. So there's work, there's money involved to grow that investment. And there can be a high degree of risk. Again, right now we're in a seller's market, big time. We're not always going to be in this market. That pendulum is going to swing back. One day we'll be in a buyer's market again. Don't always know when that's going to happen. One thing I do not have is a crystal ball. I can't tell you when we're going back in the buyer's market. I can't tell you what the next market's going to look like when that pendulum swings back. But there's risk involved with purchasing real estate. Over on page 8, we talk about the scope of the real estate business. There's lots of things you can do. That's right, after COVID, post-COVID, right? There's lots of things you can do in real estate. Brokerage is why we're here. You guys are here to be a real estate broker, to get into the brokerage business. We also have appraisals. We have loan officers. Buyers need money. They need to borrow money to buy a house. Anybody already in or thinking about property management? Some of you may be working in property management. A couple of you are already in. That's another avenue of real estate, something you may want to consider. As I said, financing, providing the funds, property development. Drive around wherever you live, drive around. You don't have to go too far to see new construction, do you? You don't have to go too far to see a new home or a new subdivision or a whole new community being built. Counseling, we are educating our clients, helping them get through the transaction, offering advice, what we think they should do. Bottom line, guys, I can't tell anybody what to do. Bottom line, the ultimate decision is up to them. All I can do is counsel them on what I know, on my foundation, the laws and the rules. Education, that's part of why we're here. We're in your pre-licensing education. We talked about post-licensing and continuing education. The Real Estate Commission also works to educate the public, because remember, that's their main purpose, is to protect the public. And what's one way we can protect the public? We can educate them. So the commission, we'll look at their website in the next couple classes. If you want to look ahead, just ncrec.gov, just Google North Carolina Real Estate Commission. There's a plethora of information on the Real Estate Commission's website. Again, we'll look at it together in a couple weeks. Somebody asked about notary signing agent. That's something else that we got post-COVID, right? That could be an avenue you want to go. Other areas in the scope of real estate business, well, zoning. We'll talk about zoning in Unit 6, but there's positions available on the zoning board to help make decisions for your city, your town. And then in real estate, we have professional organizations that we join. You guys ever heard of the National Association of Realtors, or NAR? NAR is a professional organization. Once you get your license, you probably will join NAR. I'll let your firm discuss that with you. Don't put your cart in front of your horse. Joining NAR makes you a realtor. You know that big capital R that you guys see sometimes that we rock next to our names, next to our information? You cannot rock that capital R unless you pay the dues to NAR, unless you join the National Association of Realtors. Getting into the National Association of Realtors also gets you into the state level. So we have a North Carolina Association of Realtors. And then we also have a local level. For example, I know I said I live in Archdale, but my firm is in Winston-Salem, so I got the best of the triad. I'm all over the place. You may join, for example, the Winston-Salem Board of Realtors, or the High Point Board of Realtors, or the Greensboro Board of Realtors. No matter where you live, there is a Board of Realtors. It's a local level. So they're professional organizations, and they offer additional training, additional education. Help you in your career, help you build and grow, so you can best protect your buyers and sellers. So somebody asked about listening and writing notes. You know, everybody learns differently. So, you know, if you spend your time writing every single word on the PowerPoint, you may not be listening. You may not be able to hear. So that's why I provide the PowerPoints and Learn, Test, Pass. That's why I'm recording. So hopefully within this first class, you can kind of help find your flow of what you need to do to get the information. Is it listening? Is it writing? We all learn differently. So we provide different ways for you guys to get the information. And remember, if you miss anything, we're always recording. So you can go back and watch it again and again. You know, I like the recording because it's hard to pause me and rewind me in real life, you know, but on the recording, you can shut me up. You can pause me. In the recording, you can rewind me. What did she say? You can rewind me. So you can go through it at your own pace. Okay, any questions so far? Are we having fun so far? Okay, we're just getting started. All right, so let's go ahead and take our break. Again, I try to go 10 minutes on the hour. So let's go ahead and take 10, and we come back. We're going to finish Unit 1, and then we're getting ready to go into Unit 2. All right. We're starting to get a good feel for how we're going to be the next couple months. We're going to talk about some stuff. We're going to go through the book. We're going to explain what you've read. We're going to point out in the book where you need to focus, help you study. We're going to take a 10-minute break, come back and we do it again. Pretty much it. I'm going to throw some games in. Do y'all like to play games? Yeah, I'll throw some games in and we'll try and do some other things and just listen to me. So if you're back, cameras are on. If you can hear me, look up. Do you see a little light? So let me take attendance again after this break. We're going to wrap up Unit 1, and as I said, get started on Unit 2. So let me say one more thing about National Association of Realtors, becoming a realtor. Once you pass the North Carolina real estate exam, you get your real estate license, you're a broker. Again, to become a realtor, it's an extra step to join the National Association of Realtors. That can't happen until you affiliate with a firm. Do not worry about that just yet. Your future employer will discuss that with you. We'll talk more about that process, obviously, as we go. What's important to understand right now is just because you're a broker does not automatically make you a realtor. It is an extra step. So give me 1 second to make sure I'm saying this right, because I got to think this one through. All realtors are brokers, but not all brokers are realtors. Can I do that again? All realtors are brokers, but not all brokers are realtors. Okay, you get your license, you become a broker. You join NAR, you become a realtor. Everybody with me? So just because you're a broker doesn't mean you're a realtor. Okay. Uses of real property. Well, we have several different uses. Residential, this class is heavy residential. Most of the time in this class, we spend talking about residential, specifically sales. I do have a unit for property management. If you're interested in property manager, then unit 12 will be your unit. There's also commercial, sales and lease. Anybody thinking about commercial? Anybody considering commercial? Couple of you. So I don't teach that. We don't have much of that in this class. So again, once you get your license, then it's up to you to learn the commercial business. And there's also industrial, agricultural, and then we have special purpose. So some examples of special purposes might be schools, hospitals, cemeteries. So there's several different avenues to go. There's several different places, directions that you can go. And that's one thing I'm interested in your introduction to me that you're going to do after class, if you have your book, is what avenue you think you're interested in, if you know. Some of you may just say, I don't know, I'm just here because this is step 1. I'll figure it out after that, which is fine. Again, it's step 1, day 1. So that's fine if you don't know yet where you want to go. So we talked about real estate, the market, and supply and demand. Basic Economics 101 says as supply goes up, demand goes down, demand goes up, supply goes down. We don't talk about supply and demand in real estate. In real estate, we address it as a buyer's market and a seller's market. And as I said earlier, we are big time in a seller's market, which means demand is very high and supply is low. The two big problems we're dealing with, I hate to say the word problem, the two big issues we're dealing with in this market is low inventory, which means I don't have a lot of homes for sale, and historically low interest rates. Buyers today are originating home loans at 2 point something, 3 point something. So the buyers that want to buy and take advantage of that 2 point something interest rate are struggling because supply is so low, inventory is low. Again, that pendulum will swing back one day and we'll be in a buyer's market, which means supply will be really high and demand will be low. Some different characteristics of supply, some things that affect supply, I should say, are labor force and construction costs, shortage of labor, increase in cost of building materials, scarcity of materials. We're currently going through this right now in new construction. Supplies are low post-COVID. I don't think that's just in new construction. I think that's everywhere. Post-pandemic, supplies and shortages. It's hard to get some products, and that absolutely affects the new construction. You can't build if you don't have anything to build with. Another thing that affects supply is governmental controls and financial policies. The Federal Reserves regulates our money. We'll actually talk about the feds when we get into our financing units. Our financing units are units 14 and 15. But other governmental controls that affect supply in the real estate market is taxation, zoning, building codes. Things that affect demand are population. Populations continue to increase. As populations grow, so does the need for housing. People got to have somewhere to live. Some areas are not facing growth. Some areas are facing decline, which people are moving away. We got to go to where the jobs are. And if there's no job to offer, then we're going to see a decline in that area. Demographics affect demand. Family dynamics have changed over the years. Now we have adult kids living with parents. We have parents moving in with adult kids. It's no longer one nuclear family under one roof all times, right? We may have several different things going on under the roof. Single parent households is changed. Those demographics has changed. So as demographics changes, it affects the demands. And then employment and wage levels. Again, as employment goes up, wage level goes up, demand for real estate goes up. Where are my Kernersville people? I know a couple of you said K Vegas. So you may or may not remember, and time gets away from me, but we'll get the idea. I don't know, 10-ish years ago, 12 years ago. Does anybody remember when Caterpillar announced that they were coming to Kernersville? Caterpillar's a big, like they do like equipment, like building equipment, stuff like that. What do you think happened, just in general? What do you think happened to the Kernersville market when Caterpillar announced that they were going to build a plant in Kernersville? Demand for housing, yeah, it boomed. It went up, didn't it? Because people were moving to the area to start that job for Caterpillar. Flip that coin. Do my Kernersville people remember when Dell announced they were shutting their doors? What do you think happened to the Kernersville market? That's right. It went the other way. So mass exodus, that's right. So employment, wage levels, I mean, we were on the docket for an Amazon warehouse for how many times before we actually got one? You guys remember that? We didn't get the first proposal. Same thing with Ford. I know Ford's considering coming to this area. That helps with our employment in the area. That helps with our wage levels, and that ultimately affects the real estate market. It's important that we understand right now that real estate is a market, and markets constantly fluctuate. Markets constantly change. The market that we're in right now, we will not be in forever, and we'll never see a market like this again. Even when that pendulum goes buyer's market and then back to seller's market, it'll still look different. If change isn't your thing and you want to be in real estate, hang on to your hat. Because I was not kidding earlier when I said the only thing consistent in this industry is change. It's one thing I can guarantee you. There we go, Toyota electric battery. There we go. Coming to Greensboro. That's awesome. Well, congratulations, everybody. You have successfully made it through Unit 1. Everybody give yourselves a yay. Yay! 1 unit down, 20 plus to go, right? Okay, so, so at the end of each unit, I try to remind you guys to reflect on the unit after class. So our key terms are on page 1. Again, just go through the key terms. Do you know what this word means? If not, look it up. Key point review is our Cliff's Notes. You're looking at the unit before class. You're using the key point review as a review. And then the student quiz on pages 17 to 18. When we come together on Thursday, we're going to look at a couple of these questions on the student quiz on 17 and 18. We're going to look at them together. Again, I want to help you guys dissect these questions and help you guys learn how to read these test questions. So I want to give everybody a chance to look at the unit 1, and then we'll look at a few of them. Not so much the content, but so much how you can read these questions, things that you should be looking for. Remember earlier we talked about those absolute words. Those are the kind of things that you guys should be looking out for. So we'll help you dissect those questions a little bit on Thursday. Any questions on unit 1? Okay. There's a couple of you, your cameras are on, but I can't see you. So it's twofold. You guys, I'm looking at your ceilings, a few of you. And while you have lovely ceilings, you really do. What I want to see is you. Thank you. Is it, am I saying this right? Is it Deshanti? Do you have something over your lens?
No, there shouldn't be anything.
Shindy? Okay. Do you have, I see you look like you maybe have tape or a cover or something over your lens. I can't see you. I hear you, but I can't see you. I'll let you get that worked out. And if you have problems, just reach out to Jane or I. Class 1 is our intro, is our wiggle room. Make sure we got everybody good. Okay. All right. So moving on to unit 2. Unit 2 is about property ownership and interests in real estate. So in unit 2, we're going to explain concepts of real property and personal property. We introduced them in unit 1, but in unit 2, we're going to explain them a little bit further. We're going to talk about something called estates. And specifically in unit 2, we're going to talk about a freehold estate. We're going to talk about the different forms of ownership and common interest communities, things like condominiums, townhomes, that kind of thing. So we're going to talk about some hybrid forms of ownership, some common interest communities. So to start unit 2, let's have a refresher. Remember the whole way back from unit 1, and we defined land and real estate and real property. So we said land is the surface rights, the air rights above, subsurface rights below, anything naturally attached by nature. Once man comes in and adds an improvement, a physical improvement, that land becomes real estate. And then when you discuss a homeowner's or property owner's interest, their legal interest in the property, now we're looking at their bundle of rights. So let's talk more about these bundle of rights. And with the bundle of rights, I think one easy way to remember the bundle of rights is to think of deep sea. The bundle of rights, and actually there's a the story at on page 2021 where this idea came from, the bundle of rights. There was a time in our history where not everybody could read or write. And that includes being able to sign your own name. So it was apparent if you were purchasing property, you couldn't sign your name. You just indicated that it was you by putting an X on the form and you were a homeowner. And because you couldn't read, they had to explain to you what you got as a property owner. And one way that they symbolized that was collecting twigs off the property, bundling them together, and handing that to the homeowner as a symbolism of the property that they owned. Now, today we don't actually give twigs, we give deeds, we give other documentation because we're further along today than what we were at one point. But the idea behind the bundle of legal rights is still apparent, is still here today. So the D twig is our disposition twig. And the D twig says, the disposition twig says that we have the right to transfer ownership or interest. You have the right to dispose of your property. Do you want to sell it? Do you want to gift it? It's yours. You can do with it however you wish. The first E twig is our enjoyment twig. As the owner of the property, you have the right to enjoy the property, use the property however you want within the legal confines. You have to follow zoning. You have to follow restrictive covenants. You have the right to enjoy the property in any legal manner. You shouldn't have to worry about interruptions from third parties. You have the enjoyment twig. The next E is the exclusion twig. Think of the exclusion twig as no trespassing. You have the right to say who cannot come on your property. It's your property. If you don't want people trespassing, you can exclude them from your property. The P twig is our possession twig, opposite of exclusion. Possession twig tells you who can, who you will allow on your property. It's the right to be there. It's occupancy, it's permission. And then the C twig is your control twig. You have the right to profit from your property. You have the right to determine the use of the property. Do you want to lease it? Do you want to plant corn? You control what happens on the property within the confines of the law. Is the no trespassing sign not working? I think it's important that you guys realize that these twigs have been bundled. Your twigs can be unbundled. How many renters do I have out there? You're renting the roof over your head right now. When you became a renter, you acquired some of these twigs. The landlord can no longer say who has the right to or to not be on the property. You with me? In a sense, they unbundled their rights and handed them to their renter. So rights are bundled, rights can be unbundled. So that's the idea behind our bundle of legal rights, the rights that the owner of a property has. Y'all ready for your first yellow star? We've been green up to this point. I tell you, we just jump right in, right? You ready for your first yellow star? So our first big fancy word is appurtenance. An appurtenance is the right or privilege that goes with the ownership. It runs with the land. When you sell your property, those rights or privileges are sold with it. And the next sale, and the next sale, and the next sale. It runs with the land. We'll talk about our subsurface rights, our air rights, and our water rights in just a second. If something's appurtenant, it's transferred to the new owner when the property is sold. It's part of what is conveyed. If we're conveying property, we're selling it, we're transferring those rights. And if it's appurtenant, it runs with it. for your exam, this is when I always get your attention. What did she just say? For your exam, improvements are considered appurtenant. So when you sell the property, the structure is conveyed with it, the fence, the shed, whatever, the sidewalk. The Real Estate Commission says to consider improvements as appurtenant, which means they run with the land. Can it be excluded? Anything's negotiable. Y'all write that down. Anything is negotiable. Remember what we said, every house, every buyer, and every seller, all three are different, which makes for a unique transaction every single time. And anything is negotiable. Nat negotiated his TV. There you go. Buyers walk in the front door, they see the 70-inch screen, flat screen TV, and they say, oh, does that come with the house? What do you think I say to them? Anything's negotiable. Money talks, doesn't it? I don't know about y'all, but my TV's for sale if the price is right, right? Okay, so appurtenance runs with the land. It's the right or privilege that goes with the ownership of the land, and it transfers, it conveys from owner to owner. Improved land versus improved lot. Again, a lot of times these are used interchangeably, but just to have a basic, that's what our green star means, a basic understanding. If you have improved land, you have land with a structure. So improved land, you have the house, the property. With an improved lot, you have the basic services necessary to utilize it. So you're hooked up, you have electric, you have plumbing. Bare lot is just that. You don't have plumbing, you don't have internet, you don't have electricity yet. So remember what we said, for the purposes of your exam, any kind of improvement is appurtenant, which means it does what? It runs with the land. It transfers, it conveys to the next owner. Okay, so let's talk about some rights that are pertinent, some rights that run with the land. And first off, we have our subsurface rights. Subsurface rights are anything underneath the land, your minerals, your oils, your gases, your coal, anything that we would mine for. As a homeowner, you own those subsurface rights, but those rights can be severed, which means somebody can come in and purchase or lease the rights to the subsurface. You guys heard of fracking? Coming very soon to North Carolina, if it's not here already in some parts. If you're fracking, you're gathering the gases from underneath. Those rights have been severed. Your rights as a homeowner have been severed. You no longer have the rights to those gases. Those rights belong to somebody else. When we get into Unit 8, I actually have a form. I have a seller disclosure form. The seller discloses to the potential buyer if they have or have not severed their subsurface rights. So we actually have a form for this. It's called the Mineral and Oil and Gas Rights Disclosure Form. So we'll look at that when we get to Unit 8. Somebody's going to pay me for it, right? You want my oil? What's it worth to you? So those are our subsurface rights. Another type of rights that we have are air rights. The air above your property. Those can also be severed. Your air rights can be severed. Anybody live near PTI? Anybody live? A couple of you live around PTI? Can you go out there with a sign in your front yard and say, do not fly your plane over my house? I mean, you can, but it's not going to get you anywhere, is it? Why? Because your air rights have been severed. PTI has permission through the courts to fly their planes over your house. They didn't knock on your door and ask permission, did they? Probably not. The courts granted that. So air rights can be severed from the owner. Another type of rights that we have are water rights. Water rights cannot be severed. Cannot. If your property abuts to a body of water, there are a couple different types of water rights that we have. So if you own a property near a lake or an ocean or a pond or a creek or a stream, those water rights cannot be severed. They are what they are. And we have two types of water rights. The first type of water rights are called riparian rights. Riparian water rights are those bodies of water that do not have a tide. No tide. So lakes, ponds, streams, creeks. Riparian bodies of water do not have a tide. And there are two types of riparian rights. There's non-navigable bodies of water. Non-navigable meaning I can't get a vessel down it. I can't get a boat. If your property abuts to a non-navigable body of water, that means you own to the center of the stream. Think about a shared driveway. If lot A and lot B share a driveway, that's pretty much what they're doing here. They're sharing that stream. Both own to the center of that stream. Riparian rights may also apply to navigable bodies of water, which means you can get a vessel down. If you own a property on a navigable body of water, you only own to the water edge. The water itself is owned by somebody else, the county, the state. In this case, think of the river, think of it as a public street. You only own your property, the edge of your property, right? You have no ownership in the street. Can you take a sign out there and say, don't drive your car in front of my property? No, because they have the right. You may have some places, I think of Ballew's Creek, north of Kernersville. Ballew's Creek, for example, allows homeowners to put docks in their body of water. Some allow you to, some don't. It's in their covenants. Lake Norman, that's another good one. Yes, Lake Norman allows you to put a dock in their body of water. Everybody hear what I'm saying? It's their body of water. They are giving you permission to do that. What if they don't give you permission? What if they don't allow it? Then you can't build a dock, can you? So a question comes in, you own the dock, but not the water. That's exactly right. Your dock on their water. So riparian rights are bodies of water that don't have a tide. So what do we call bodies of water that do have a tide? And those are referring to littoral rights. Littoral water rights are bodies of water that do have a tide. So the ocean, the sound, our sounds. I know somebody said you're down at the Outer Banks, and I turned green when you said that because I'm so jealous. I was just there for Christmas. I think I went the coldest week of the year, but cold weather at the beach is better than cold weather at home any day. Once you get down east to our coast, you're in bodies of water that do have a tide, and you have to abide by littoral rights. And what littoral rights say is that the homeowner owns to the average high water mark. So whenever the high tide comes in, whatever that high tide line is, the average high tide line is what the owner owns. The strip of land between high tide and low tide is called the foreshore. High tide and low tide is called the foreshore, and that belongs to the state of North Carolina. It's pretty much our public beaches, right? We're allowed to access our beaches. The property owners can't come out there and say, you know, get out of my foreshore. They don't own that foreshore. The state of North Carolina does. Once you get out a little ways, you're running into government-owned property. And of course, once you go out a little bit further into the ocean, you're in international waterways. But what we need to understand is that littoral rights the homeowner owns to the average high water mark. The state owns the foreshore, high tide to low tide area. Okay. So our subsurface rights and our air rights can be severed. Somebody can purchase or rent those rights from you. Water rights cannot be severed. Everybody good? Good, good. Looks like a couple cameras have fallen off. I see that one. If we were to go out west, and this obviously is not a good candidate for a state-specific test question, but it could be a candidate for a national. And out west, their water rights, they don't use riparian and littoral. They use something called the doctrine of prior appropriation. And basically what the doctrine of prior appropriation says, the first one to show up with a use for these rights has the right to use it. So you may own the land bordering the water, but the doctrine of prior appropriation says you don't have the right to it. Somebody else has claimed those rights. Again, we're not doing this in North Carolina, so this will not be a state-specific test question if you see it. Ranchers issue, yeah, that's a good point. They just do things differently out west sometimes. So if they own the water, yeah, you may not have the right to use it. Isn't that something? That's exactly right, Jolie. You may own the property next to the water, but you don't have the right to use the water because somebody else showed up and said, I have a better use for this. First come, first serve, right? That's pretty much what we're saying here. First one to show up and claim it, it's yours. So being a good neighbor, play nice together. That's right. That's exactly right. We can share the water. Can the owner of the water make it? Sure, you can do whatever it want to once it's yours, right? This applies only if water. No, it's just up to a body of water, any body of water. What if the use changes? We're getting a little deeper than what I'm familiar with. Can things change? I'm sure they can. Can you dam the waterway? Don't know. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm going to say it depends. You probably couldn't do anything upstream that affects the rights of the owner downstream. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure there's things in place about that. There you go. Anything's negotiable, right? You want to sell your water rights, sell your doctrine of prior appropriation? Money talks. What's it worth to you? Boathouse, again, you guys, I don't know. Boathouse zone, I'm going to say it depends. Like we have different rules here. Like we just talked about Baloo's Creek and whether or not you can put a dock up. They're going to have different rules there as well. There's no flat across the board. Yep. With water, there also comes some other terms, some basic terms we need to understand. Basically, water's going to do what water wants to do. Can we all agree with that? If water wants to flow this way, that's what water's going to do. Water's going to do whatever it wants to do. So when water flows, there are certain things that can happen to the land, certain ways that it can impact the land. It can affect the boundaries of the land. So accretion, you're gradually increasing land. Again, something happened upstream that changes the way the water flows, and now you're gaining land from accretion. Relection is you're gaining land because the water is receding. Maybe the creek's drying up, the stream's drying up. Maybe we're in a drought. Erosion is what's happening upstream. You're gradually losing land caused by flowing water. And then avulsion is your sudden act of nature. Think mudslide, for example, earthquake, things like that, that suddenly remove or change the soil. Okay. Another type of rights that we have with property ownership are support rights. There's lateral support and subjacent support. Lateral support is the right to have the property next to you support your natural boundaries. So your neighbor can't go out there and dig 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 in a way that it affects your boundary. Your home shouldn't slide into where they've dug. Subjacent rights are the subsurface rights. Think about our coal mines up in West Virginia. Those coal mines are miles underneath the surface. So when they're down there miles underneath the surface mining for coal, they're not affecting the surface rights. The house isn't going to cave in because they're mining so far down. So even though you may have severed your subsurface rights, maybe you do allow fracking on your property, maybe you do allow them to drill for oil, that can affect your surface rights. Your surface has the right to be supported. Jolie, you should be. If they're not willing to cut you a check, you may have to take them to court. Bottom line, if two parties can't agree to agree, the judge will determine it for them. So if they do come in and affect your lateral support or your subjacent support, and they're not willing to compensate you, you can probably take them to court. I know it's not where we want to go, but we do have options. Any other questions about our rights? Subsurface rights, air rights, water rights, support rights. We're getting ready to switch gears just a bit. So let me make sure we leave this behind us for now.
Did you say that the subjacent support was not allowing them to dig into your property?
Underneath the subsurface rights. I mean, you can dig in my subsurface rights, but you can't affect my surface rights.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why, like, again, our coal mines in West Virginia, I mean, guys, they're like miles. These guys have to ride elevators to get down to their mining, right? And the reason being is because they're down there mining, doing their operation, but they're not impacting my surface rights.
I do have a question on the water rights. So
Uh-huh.
talking about docks and stuff. So in other words, for if Lake Norman said, you know, this property can have a dock, they went and spent the several grand to go and build that dock and get it all set up, and then 6 months to a year later, Lake Norman said, well, you need to now take that down. We don't want that up. Are you allowed to like take them to court or get some type of financial compensation since they did kind of switch gears on that? What would you do in that case?
Well, I mean, your only option would be to take them to court, right? So are you allowed to take them to court? Absolutely. Are you going to win? I don't know. It's going to be tough, right? Usually covenants, declarations aren't going to change like that. So you might be grandfathered in. You might be allowed to keep your dock because your dock was there, but nobody new coming in can build a dock. But guys, it all depends. Lake Norman has different rules than Blues Creek, than where else? Lake Jordan, right? They all have different rules and regulations. So if they do change, I mean, you're not just SOL, right? Completely. They're gonna, and if they say, take your dock down or we're gonna fine you, I would take your dock down to avoid a fine. Okay. Good stuff, isn't it? Okay. So let's switch gears just a bit. We've talked about our rights and things that are pertinent. So let's go back and talk a little bit more about personal property. And the basic definition of personal property is anything that's not real property. If you can pick it up and move it, movability is its primary characteristic. You may hear personal property referred to as personality or chattel, all the same thing. There are laws that govern personal property, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. So back in Unit 1, we said real property is anything that's permanently attached. Personal property is anything that's not real property. So again, the question for buyers is, if I buy this house, does this come with it? Does that come with it? Does this convey? Does this not? Buyers want to know this stuff, right? If I buy a house, what do I get? What all comes with it? And one thing that we need to have a discussion with are our different plants and our different types of plants, our shrubs, specifically things that are in the ground. Again, if it's in a pot, if you can pick it up and move it, then it's personal property. That's the easy one, right? What if it's not in a pot? What if it's planted in the ground? Well, it depends. Fruits of the nature, these are plants that do not require annual cultivation. Our shrubs, our bushes, you plant them, they're in the ground, and they are there. Those are considered real property. Can they be excluded by agreement of the parties? Of course they can. Why? Because anything is negotiable. So unless negotiated, unless excluded, anything in the ground is considered real property. Our annual crops are things that we have to plant year after year after year. Are those real property or personal property? And the answer is, it depends. If the owner plants corn and sells the property, it's real property, which means it stays. If the tenant farmer plants corn and then their lease runs out, they can come back that harvest and get their corn because it's considered personal property. Now they can't keep planting next year and the year after that, right? They can only come back this harvest and get their corn. The previous owner took the grass. Are you kidding me? That's one fun thing about this industry. I'm never going to say I've heard it all because I have not. I have never heard of that before. That sounds like a pretty good case for the judge. If the parties can't agree to agree, the judge will decide for them. I've never heard about people. Yeah, petty is absolutely right. Do people sometimes get petty in a real estate transaction? You betcha. Especially when we're down to the wire, we're like hours away from closing. Oh, let's just get real petty now. Yeah, that's right. It must have been really nice grass we were fighting over, right? So depends on the grass, but that's some of that nice Kentucky blue. So this is part of our job as real estate agents, is hopefully not to be in that situation. But again, one thing I don't have that I really wish I did is a crystal ball. My goodness, what I would not do for a crystal ball. But I haven't found one yet that works. So fruits of the nature, bushes or shrubs, they're considered real property. Our crops are real property for sale, personal property for lease. What will we do if our buyer's in that situation? If the parties can't agree to agree, a judge will determine it for them. If the parties can't agree to agree, so what was, let's see, Jolene, let me go back up. So Jolene's question was, you can make real property personal property. I'm going to address that in the very next slide. Yep. Yep. And that's the other thing, you guys, if I ever miss your question, please help me out, because you guys all start typing at the same time and it's a lot that goes through. So thank you for. Okay. So to answer the question, real property can convert to personal property can convert to real property. If you're severance, you're converting real property to personal property. You're severing it from the structure. Annexation, you're converting personal property to real property. Somewhere in your house, in your ceiling, I'm looking up at my ceiling right now, and I have a ceiling fan in my room. Do you guys have some kind of light fixture or ceiling fan in your house? The house is probably built with that, right? And that ceiling fan it's a fixture. It's pretty permanent, right? Otherwise it'd be falling on my head and I'd be in a lot of pain. So it's attached in a way that it's meant to be permanent. It's real property. What if I wake up one day and I decide I don't like that ceiling fan? Can I take it down? Can I sever it? And now that I've removed it, now I can carry it outside. I severed it. I converted it from real property to personal property. So I take my ceiling fan down, I carry it outside, I throw it away, I go to Lowe's and I buy a new ceiling fan. That new ceiling fan I buy in Lowe's is personal property, right? I'm carrying it in my house in a box. And then I attach it to my ceiling. So I have annexed it. I have converted it from personal property when I carried it in the box. And now it's real property, and it's attached in a way that hopefully it won't fall on my head. Fixtures can come and go. How attached, how permanent? We'll talk about that in just a second. What do they say? Nailed, screwed, or glued? If you attach it in such a way that it's meant to be there for a really long time, then it should be considered real property. So we're going to talk more about fixtures. when we come back from break. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's take 10. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about fixtures. Welcome back. Last hour of the first day. How we feeling? The true test is going to be see whether or not I see you Thursday, right? If you keep coming back, that's how I'm going to know. Just in case you missed the beginning, and then a couple of you came on late, maybe some registration issues. Don't forget, I've been recording all day. So when we come together on Thursday, I'll have our YouTube channel. And if you missed anything this morning, you can certainly get caught up. As a matter of fact, if you've missed the welcome, I need you to get caught up so you're aware of the class rules and expectations, we'll call them. Pay too much, I hear you. Yeah, that's it. You know what? Thank you, Dawn, for bringing that up. As far as I'm concerned, you guys are spending good money to be here. I don't know. I think this is pretty good money what you guys are spending to be here. So utilize that. Work hard, study hard, commit. It's one thing I hope you guys heard today is that you've got to commit. If you just think you're going to come to class, every class, and sit here and pay attention and pass these exams, I'm here to tell you it's going to be really hard. So that's why when we come together on Thursday, we're going to talk about how you can dissect these test questions, how you can better understand them. Okay. So you guys start today. Yeah, college is a lot more expensive. And you know what, Jolie, that's an excellent point too. Think about this, you guys. I'm basically helping you towards a master's degree in real estate in like 2 months. So is it cram? You betcha. Remember, I got a whole lot to cover. So hang in there. Renee, your dream, absolutely. Hang in there. Some days will be better than others. Welcome to the wonderful world of real estate. Sometimes you're going to have really good days, sometimes not so much. The thing is how you persevere. The thing is how you get through it. Always keep your why in mind. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? Why do you want this? Keep that why in focus. So let me take attendance. Everybody smile pretty. And what we're going to do, we've talked about severance, we've talked about annexation. We can convert real property to personal property and vice versa. So y'all ready for your first red star? I wasn't kidding when I said we're jumping in the deep water today. Our first red star. Are you ready? Completely understanding what a fixture is. Dawn, I'll answer that in just a second if you don't mind. A fixture is something that was once personal property, but it's been converted to real property by being permanently affixed to the land or the structure. Nailed, screwed, or glued. You carried in the door, you attached it in a way that was meant to be permanent, and now it is considered a fixture. If you guys will, let's just skip ahead for 1 second. Look with me, please, in your book on pages 26 and 27. Do you see that in practice on pages 26 and 27? When we get into unit 10, how far away is that? We're going to look specifically at our standard offer to purchase and contract, the one that we use the most. And when we're looking at the standard offer to purchase and contract, this is a list, page 26 and 27, of all things that are considered fixtures. Can they be excluded? Of course they can. Why? Because anything is negotiable. So we also have a place in our contract to exclude them if the parties agree to do so. But unless excluded, these things are considered fixtures and they will convey with the property. Now, this list is not up to date. There's like thermostats is missing, I noticed. That was the most recent addition. So we'll look at the actual form when we get to unit 10. But this just kind of gives us an idea of what our standard offer to purchase and contract considers a fixture. Is there anything on this list that just makes you say, what? That's a fixture? TV brackets. So let's be clear on this. The brackets are a fixture. The TV is not. Why? Because the TV slides on the brackets. The brackets are what are permanently attached. To that point, the very last bullet point on page 27, curtain and drapery rods. The drapes themselves are considered personal property. Aren't the rods what are attached? You guys see how this is working? Blinds are permanently attached. Mailboxes, you find that interesting, mailboxes. What if you got as a wedding gift, you got a mailbox? Could you take your wedding gift mailbox with you when you sell? Sure, it would just be an exclusion. So somebody mentioned security system. This list is assuming things are owned and not leased. So if something is leased, it's not mine to give, right? So if I have CPI security systems that I'm leasing, that would not be included because it's leased and not owned. And again, we have places in our contract to spell all this out. So we'll look specifically at the contract. They took the hot tub and the old owners with them. Wait a minute, what? Basketball goals, it depends on how they're attached. If the poles concreted in, that's permanently attached. If the one of the basketball goal on wheels, that would be personal property, right? Question came in, so all these things have to be listed in the contract. These things are already listed in your contract. Again, this is standard verbiage from our offer to purchase and contract. Here's the deal, you guys. This very same list also shows up in our listing agreement. So when I'm meeting with a seller for the first time and we're having the discussion about me listing and selling their home, we can go over this list and I can have a conversation. I got you, the old owner. You're not taking the people. They just took the hot tub. When I'm getting ready to list a house, I can have this conversation with sellers, can I? Because it's in the listing agreement. And I can say, look at this. Is there anything you plan on taking? What if the seller looks at you and says, well, you see that chandelier in the dining room? That was my grandma's chandelier. That was an old antique. It's a family heirloom that's been with me for years and years and years. Does that mean the seller has to leave grandma's antique chandelier? Can the seller take grandma's antique chandelier? Of course they can. We can exclude it. But better yet, if your seller looks at you and says, I'm taking grandma's antique chandelier, encourage your seller to take it down and replace it with another chandelier before a buyer ever shows up. People want what they can't have, right? As soon as you say you can buy this house with everything in it except for the chandelier, what's the buyer going to say? We're going to get petty again now, aren't we? I'd have bought this house if the chandelier came with it. So have this conversation with your sellers before you allow buyers in the front door for showings, and tell your sellers, if you're going to take that mailbox because it was a wedding gift, or if you're going to take grandma's antique chandelier, let's go ahead and take it down now before we list it. And that way a buyer will never see it. Now, obviously we want to replace it with something that looks nice in that space, right? I don't want a light bulb on a string in the dining room. I want something that looks nice in that place, in that space. What if your seller says, no, I've never not eaten a meal under grandma's antique chandelier, and I don't plan on starting now. I'm not taking that chandelier down until I move out. It's now your job as the listing agent to make sure every single buyer that sees that property knows that that does not convey. You put it in your advertisement, you put it in your marketing flyers. I would even go as far to put a tag on it that says does not convey, because everybody that looks at that house needs to know that when they show up after closing of their brand new home, that chandelier is not going to be there. So that's what I mean by fixtures can be excluded. If the seller's not willing to take it down before you list, then my job as the listing agent is to make sure everybody knows that when they buy this house, they're not getting that chandelier. It's an exclusion. So again, we'll talk more about this when we get into unit 10 and look at our offer to purchase and contract. Attached microwave. Somebody had an attached microwave. That's right. Is that a difference in having an attached microwave versus having a microwave sitting on the kitchen counter? You guys see the difference? How is it attached? If it's over the stove, it's probably not, you know, falling off and hitting anything. Closet system, like the shelving system. So you got like different, you know, some people closet made, man, they got some cool stuff for your closets, don't you? I didn't know what my closet could be until I met Closet Made. So that could be anything. I'm taking it. That's so true. There's one thing on this list that we tend to think is a fixture. I'm sorry, there's one thing not on this list that we tend to think is a fixture, but unless it's built in, it is not considered a fixture. Does anybody want to venture a guess on what's not considered a fixture? Yeah. Jolie's got it. The refrigerator is hands down the #1 negotiable item, because unless it's built in, the refrigerator is not considered a fixture. Lots of people had issues with the refrigerator. When you're getting ready to list that house, specifically ask the seller, does the refrigerator convey? Are you going to take it or are you going to leave it? Because the refrigerator is hands down, the #1 negotiable. Every single buyer that comes into your open house is going to say, does the refrigerator stay? So we have to have this conversation. And it would be personal property. Stove is included. Let's see, where is it? All stoves, the second bullet point. All stoves, ovens, built-in appliances, attached microwave oven, vent hood. So stoves are considered. That's right, Christina. I plug my refrigerator into the same plug that I plug my hair dryer in, right? Can I take my hair dryer with me? Because all I got to do is unplug it. Same thing with the refrigerator. So the stove is included, refrigerator is not. I'm here to tell you guys, as listing agents, once you get out there and start listing property, the voice of experience, go ahead and ask your seller up front. Are you going to keep the fridge? Because it will come up. Washer and dryer is another big negotiable item, but it's negotiable. So again, we have a place to exclude fixtures in our contract that we'll see in unit 10. I also have a place to include personal property, any negotiated personal property that's going to stay. And the refrigerator is one of those items. So we'll see this again in unit 10. So if you're using our standard contract, these things are considered fixtures. Does that mean they have to stay? No, I'm just telling you, anything's negotiable and we need to make arrangements if the seller wants to take them. Best thing we can do is have these conversations with the seller up front. You know, my sellers tell me, oh, okay, thank you. I'll look at this list tonight before I go to bed. You know what? I'm a really patient person. I can sit here for 5 minutes while you look at it now so we can talk about it, so we can discuss it. What about that dogwood that was planted when little Johnny was born? And we've watched that dogwood grow with little Johnny. That thing's considered a personal property. I'm sorry, real property, right? But when they want to take it, can we take it? Of course we can, as long as we put it in a pot before we list it, or we exclude it. Make sure all buyers know that when this property conveys, that dogwood will not be part of the property. So, as I've been saying, if parties can't agree to agree, and let me just go ahead and say this, if we're going to disagree about something, it's going to be a fixture. So if parties can't agree to agree, the judge will determine it for us. And how does the judge determine? What's the judge going to look at? Well, the judge uses something called the total circumstance test. And this is how the judge decides if an item is a fixture or personal property. So if we get into this long drawn out senseless battle over a fixture, would a mirror hung over a dresser be considered real property? I'm gonna say, because if you look 1, 2, 3, 4th from the bottom, on page 26, mirrors attached to walls, ceiling, cabinets, or doors, all bathroom mirrors, when using our standard form. So we can't agree over a fixture. What do? We go to the judge. The judge applies the total circumstance test. And the judge is going to ask or determine basically 4 questions. The judge is going to look at IRMA. What was the intent of the person that installed it? Did they install it with the intentions of it being permanent forever and ever? Or did they install it with the intentions of it being removed at some point? Who is the annexer? What's the relationship of the annexer? If a tenant installs something, they may not mean for it to be forever, right? Because the tenant isn't going to be there forever. Method of annexation. How permanent are we talking about? Can you remove it without causing damage to the property? And the adaptation to the real estate. How customized, how built in. So the judge applies IRMA to the total circumstance test. And based on this information that the judge gathers, the judge will determine if it's a fixture or personal property. I once heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but I once heard everything you see on pages 26 and 27 is a result of a lawsuit, is a result of a court case. Buyer and seller went to court over, pick something, generators that are permanently wired. The judge determined it was a fixture, and now we have a fixture in our offer to purchase and contract. This list does update. Like I said, thermostats were just added, I don't know, a year ago. So we'll look at the official list when we get to unit 10 and we look at our offer to purchase and contract. So let's look at a picture. This is a house. This is a house I listed a couple years ago. One of my favorite listings, gorgeous home, immaculate. You could have eaten off the basement floor of this home if you wanted to. It was spot on. So that's why I like this picture, because it makes me think of pretty houses. So why don't you guys tell me in the chat, just looking at this picture, what are some things that would be considered fixtures? What are some things you think would be considered fixtures? Things that are going to stay unless excluded. The microwave, because it's built in. Yep. The lights. Yep, we got the hanging lights here. The cabinets, those are pretty attached, aren't they? The blinds, because the blinds are attached. The shade, the blinds. The faucet. Yep. The stove. The island counter. Some are attached, some are just on wheels, right? How do I know this one's attached? I don't know if you can see this, but you see it's got an electrical source. So it's got to be attached to something. But if you have a kitchen island on wheels, those would not be attached. Ooh, the lights underneath the cabinet, those are pretty attached, or they'd be laying on the counter, right? The door, yeah, very good. So now when you're showing this property and your buyer walks in this kitchen and says, what stays? Now we have a better idea of, well, you'd get this, 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 and this, right? And when in doubt, you can always refer to your offer to purchase and contract. Questions or comments on fixtures? We have another category of fixtures that we need to talk about, and these are called trade fixtures. And trade fixtures are fixtures that are tenant of a leased property uses to conduct their business. They use it to conduct their trade. So think of like a commercial kitchen, a retail store with shelves and racks. Those are all items that the tenant businessman will attach to their property, to the real property, for use to conduct their business. And that trade fixtures are the exception because they're personal property owned by the tenant, which means at the end of their lease, they can take their trade fixtures with them. Pizza oven, exactly. If it's to conduct their trade. Now, the landlord can require the tenant to repair any damage to the property when they're removing these fixtures. They can make them repair the wall or the floor, however they're attached. That can be part of the lease. That can be a condition of the lease. But they're considered personal property. They're owned and installed by the commercial tenant for use to conduct their trade, use to conduct their business. If they leave them at the end of the lease, or if they skip out in the middle of the night and don't take them with them, then those trade fixtures become real property of the landlord. They're only personal property of the tenant. And again, the tenant's going to be responsible for any damage to the property caused by removing them at the end of their lease. So let's look at another picture. This is our dirty commercial kitchen. I don't know if I want to eat here or not, but we get the idea. What are some things would be considered trade fixtures? What are some things that the tenant would install to conduct their trade? You can tell me in the chat. Tell everybody in the chat. Yeah, those hood vents, that thing is a monster, isn't it? Look at this sucker. But that's attached in a way that it's not falling, right? And if the tenant, if the commercial tenant installed it, then they would be able to take it out. Your stove, your fryers, this whole system down here. Again, it might be welded to the floor. The tenant can take them at the end of their lease. They would have to repair the damage to the building that it caused. The shelves, the microwave, the shelf that the microwave's sitting on, our counters, our racks. You got these racks here that are kind of suspended in midair. They're attached to something. There you go, Brooklyn. Let's just be easy. Pretty much everything but the floor. What about the tiles? If the tenant put them in, you know, that might have been upfitted. Some landlords provide their tenants with an upfitting and they'll prepare the space for them, basically. We'll talk about upfitting when we get into our tenant landlord unit 11. So trade fixtures, the commercial tenant, personal property, the commercial tenant that they can use to conduct their trade. Taking the tiles would be hilarious. It'd be kind of petty too, wouldn't it? But don't put it past people. Another type of fixtures we have in North Carolina is our agricultural fixtures. And once the tenant farmer installs them, nailed, screwed, or glued, agricultural fixtures become real property of the landlord unless the parties agree otherwise. Can the parties agree otherwise? Of course they can. Why? Because everything is negotiable. But unless stated otherwise, at the end of the tenant farmer's lease, they will leave any items that they brought in, any items that they attached. So our agricultural fixture picture. Oh, do we love goats? I love goats. So this goat is hanging out in his feeding trawl, right? That trawl has to be attached in a way that he's not falling over. It's probably dug some holes, pour concrete in, something like that. If the tenant farmer installed that trawl or even that fence, then they will remain at the end of the tenancy. Of course, the tenant farmer can take their animals with them. They're not permanently attached. At least I hope not. I'm calling PETA if they are. But the trawl and the fence, if the tenant farmer installed these at the end of their lease, they will remain. Becca's going to court over some goats. I hear you. Who doesn't want goats? I want a goat. My husband says, no. He's probably right in the long run, but still. 3 horses. There you go. That's how I can sell that, Matt. We don't need a lawnmower. We'll just get a goat. Dibs on the goat or the horses. I'm not sure which one Becca's calling. Let's see. Good question came in. Why are agricultural tenants less protected than other commercial tenants? And truth is, I do not know the answer to that. I don't know how the courts came to making sure or to come into that arrangement. But so let's see, making sure we understand. If I have a hair salon, the sinks in the fixture. The landlord may, okay, so I think you're referring, Mendy, you're referring to upfitting here. The landlord may or may not do that. So bottom line, let's understand, if the tenant brings it in and installs it, the tenant has the right to remove it, talking about trade fixtures. So if they brought the sinks in, they can remove the sinks. If they brought the chairs and the mirrors, right? So bottom line with trade fixtures, if they brought it in and installed it, they have the right to remove it at the end of the tenancy. Does it have to be agreed upon? No, because that's the rule of the trade fixtures. There will be something in the lease just to make sure everybody's protected. Okay. So remember a little bit ago, we kind of touched on personal property, and we said that there are rules that govern personal property, rules that protect personal property. I guess I just have to say it depends. I don't have all the answers because, guys, it just depends. It just depends. So if the landlord says you can take the hot water heater afterwards, then, you know, it depends on what's upfitted, what's in the space before they get there, I guess is what we're trying to say. So personal property, we said there are rules that govern personal property, and that rule that governs personal property is the North Carolina Uniform Commercial Code. And if the North Carolina Uniform Commercial Code, any item that is bought on credit and the purchaser gives a security agreement, those items are considered personal property until paid in full. It's personal property until paid in full. So if you buy your water heater on credit and you provide a security agreement, this is not putting it on your credit card. This is providing credit to the creditor, to the person that's providing your water heater. That water heater remains personal property until it's paid in full. It's not yours until it's paid in full. The creditor will probably file the security agreement. They'll record it. So anybody with an interest in this property will see the security agreement. We'll talk all about recording and document searches, title searches, and Unit 5. The whole reason we record something is to put everybody else on notice. So how is the creditor protecting their personal property, their interest? They're recording the security agreement until it's paid in full, and then they'll release it. And again, when we get to our offer to purchase and contract, there's places where the seller discloses if they own it or if they're leasing it. If they lease it, it's not theirs to sell. And that's right. Once it's paid in full, it becomes a fixture. It becomes real property. So the North Carolina Uniform Commercial Code is what regulates our personal property, our financed personal property. We'll talk all about recording and title searches and all that in Unit 5. Other items of real property and personal property that may depend. We talk about our factory built or our manufactured homes. A manufactured home is built to HUD standards. HUD is the Housing of Urban Development. Manufactured homes are titled and regulated by the DMV. There's a VIN number. There's a title to the property from the DMV. There's wheels, an axle, moving hitch that you can hook it up to a vehicle and carry it away. When it is regulated by the DMV, when it is titled and it has a VIN number and it has its wheels and its axle and its moving hitch, it's considered personal property. All you got to do is hitch it up and drive it down the road, right? It's considered personal property. When you remove the wheels, when you cancel the title at the DMV, when you attach it to a permanent foundation, you've converted it from personal property to real property. Once you cancel that title, remove the wheels, and attach it to a permanent foundation, now it is considered real property. Now it's meant to stay. So manufactured mobile homes, it just depends whether or not they're personal property or real property. What's the advantage? Again, it depends. Do you want to take it with you or is it there to stay? Is it, it's going to be a personal thing, right? What do you want to do with it? We also have modular housing. Modular housing is built to state codes. Modular housing is built in big rooms or sections off-site and then assembled on-site. So they're coming in the back of a truck, but they're not coming in board by board. They're coming in room by room or story by story. Once they are assembled on-site, they are considered real property. Have you guys ever been driving down the highway and you see like half a house? You ever wonder where the other half is? It's probably on its way. Okay, so modular housing, there's pluses and minuses. You have more control when it's built in a factory. You don't have to worry about weather getting in the way. If you've ever dealt with new construction, weather can be a challenge. We don't necessarily have to deal with that factory build. But once you bring it in, bed of a truck and assemble it, it's considered real property. Any questions? How we doing? Still doing good? You guys learning anything on day one? Boy, we're just scratching surfaces. Hang on to your hats, folks. Okay. Unit 2 kind of goes all over the place. So just want to make sure we're good before we switch gears again. So going back to our manufactured mobile homes, it's personal property when it has wheels. It becomes real property when you, could be an RV, could be mobile home, manufactured home, trailer. But once you permanently attach it, cancel your title with the DMV, you've converted the personal property to real property. Is it easy to distinguish if it's modular home or not? Once it's been settled for years, I mean, yes, I mean, you're going to be able to see there's no, I mean, I wouldn't consider this a permanent foundation. This picture may be a little misleading, but it's not on wheels, right? Permanent foundation, maybe you put on a concrete slab or build a foundation for it. So that's a distinguishing thing. And the owner's going to know if they have a DMV title or not. I'm going to ask the questions. Yeah, and then the difference in a manufactured and a modular home is one, the codes. Again, manufacturers built by HUD standards, and there's going to be a sticker, usually on the kitchen counter. So we can know if it's a manufactured home. If it's a modular home, the sticker might be on the back somewhere, but they just have different codes, serial number. Okay. Tax is different, possibly because the value is going to be different for a modular, or excuse me, a mobile home. So land taxes, but the structure, absolutely. Why would someone want to do that? I don't know why people do what they do, but they do. Tornadoes, tax differences. See, I knew if I waited long enough, there'd be reasons. Insurance, see? Okay. So let's switch gears again in unit 2. We'll put personal and real property behind us for now. Switch gears again, and let's talk about an estate. Focusing just on real property, I'm talking about an estate. An estate is the amount and kind of interest one has in real property. An estate will tell you the degree, the quantity, the nature, the extent of your interest. An estate is just your interest. We can use one word to define what an estate is. And an estate is the interest that you have in the real property. And there are different types of interests. There are different types of estates. It'd be way too boring to only have one kind of estate. And essentially, there are, big picture, there are two types of estates. There's an estate of ownership, where you own the property, also called a freehold estate. And there's an estate of possession, where you rent the property. It's a leasehold estate. You're there because you have permission to be there. The two big type difference of estates, one says you own it, one says you rent it. we're going to talk all about leasehold estates in Unit 11, which is a way down the road. So hang on to that for now. Just kind of tuck that back there for now. And what we're going to focus on right now in Unit 2 is freehold estates. These are your ownership interests. And if you'll look, I love the chart on page 29. The chart on page 29 breaks up our freehold estates. And basically the two different categories of freehold estates, some are inheritable and some are not. If something's inheritable, what does that mean? It means after the owner passes away, they can inherit, others can inherit their property. So some are inheritable, some are not. And what you're looking at on my PowerPoint is pretty much the picture. I like pictures. They like pictures and graphs and charts, and I do too. So I'm going to point out pictures. So again, what you're looking at is the picture on page 29 that separates the freehold estate into two categories, an estate of inheritance and a estate not of inheritance. Some are inheritable, some are not. The first type of estate we're going to talk about, you're going to deal with 99.9% of the time in your real estate career. Do not write that number down. I just made that up. The first type of estate that we're going to talk about is called fee simple absolute. And this is what you're going to deal with the majority of the time as a broker. Fee simple absolute is the highest form of ownership. It's what we see most of the time. There are no limitations. There are no limitations to the ownership other than zoning, restrictive covenants, the law, the rules. There are no limitations as long as you're not violating public land use controls, deed restrictions, etc. Fee simple absolute, what we see the majority of the time. If you're that 0.1% that ever gets to encounter another type of freehold estate, we're going to get an attorney involved. It's like that. Okay, so as long as we're doing fee simple absolute, no attorneys. If you're dealing with anything else that we're getting ready to talk about, now we probably need an attorney involved because there are restrictions, because there are limitations. Guys, we're not in law school. We're in real estate school. And as I mentioned earlier, and as I will keep mentioning for our next 2 months together, we need to stay in our lane. A lot of this class teaches you just enough to be dangerous. So you may think because you had 20 minutes in pre-licensing that you can advise a client on another type of freehold estate, but you can't. The reason we're talking about the rest of these estates is so if you encounter them, you know how to handle it. How do you handle it? Call your attorney or have your client call their attorney, I should say. Everybody hear me? Everybody good with what I'm telling you? Okay. So fee simple absolute, no attorneys for the most part, unless we start bickering over a fixture or something, right? Then, but for the most part, the law doesn't need to be involved. Other types of estates, we have something called a fee simple defeasible. These estates have restrictions on use. There are restrictions on how you can or cannot use the property. And if you break the rules, you lose the property. Yeah, you just heard me right. If you break the rules, if you violate the use, you lose the property. Now, you know the rules when you buy the property. It's in the deed. You buy it knowing the rules. But it's pretty simple. Break the rules and you lose the property. And there are two types of fee simple defeasible estates. The first type of fee simple defeasible is called fee simple subject to condition subsequent. That's a mouthful, isn't it? What this type of restriction says that the owner can do whatever they want to with the property, except one thing, except one condition. You buy the property knowing you can use it however you want, except one thing. So let's say the restriction is you can't sell alcohol. You buy the property knowing you can do whatever you want to on this property, except sell alcohol. The moment you sell one beer, game over. You broke the rules, you lose the property. Did you buy the property knowing you can't sell alcohol? Absolutely. This is not a surprise to you. Did you have to buy this property? No, but you chose to. The grantor is the person giving the property. So if you break the rules, the grantor takes you to court. The court looks at the restriction. The judge looks at the restriction, says, wow, you broke the rules. It says right here, you served a beer, you're out. You lose the property. So fee simple subject to condition subsequent. You can do whatever you want, except one thing. Another restriction on use, another example of fee simple to feasible, is the fee simple determiner. The grantor is the person that's giving you the property. We'll spend a lot more time talking about the grantor. Grantor. Another type of fee simple to feasible is fee simple determinable. Fee simple determinable says you can only use this property for one purpose. You cannot use it for anything else. So let's say, for example, the deed restrictions say you can only use this property for religious purposes. The moment you use this property for something that's not religious, you broke the rules, you violated the use, and you lose the property. In a fee simple determinable, the grantor does not have to take you to court. It's already been determined that if you violate the restrictions, you use the property, you lose the property. No lawsuit, court, attorneys, nope, none of that's required. It's already been determined, it's already been decided. What happens if you perform something non-religious on this property? See why I want you guys calling an attorney? Goodness. So fee simple to feasible, big picture. Fee simple to feasible has restrictions on use. You violate the restrictions, you violate the rules, you lose the property. Again, you knew it when you bought it. When you get that court summons, you shouldn't be surprised because you knew you violated those rules. You didn't have to buy the property, but you chose to anyway. So let's take a sec. Y'all put your pencils down for a second. You guys are right. So let's take just a second. Let's look at an example. The grantor, again, the grantor is the person giving the property, the person conveying the property. The grantor deeds land to a school district for so long as the school district maintains a public elementary school on the parcel, and if it ceases to do so, this estate shall end immediately. It's pretty clear, isn't it? What are we using this property for? Public elementary school. If I use it for something other than a public elementary school, have I violated the use and should lose the property? Yeah, because that's how it was deeded to me. That's how I took title, was knowing this use. The district has a fee simple determinable estate. If at some point the district does not maintain a public elementary school, the title of the land goes back to the grantor, the person that gave you the land to begin with, or if that person is no longer with us, it will go on to their heirs. It's all spelled out in the deed. So fee simple to feasible is a restriction on use. The restriction is on how you can use the property. So if you said you can do what you want, just no playground, it would be, that's right. As long as you, so we had the two. One, you can do whatever you want on the property except for one thing. In this case, it tells you the only way you can use the property. Okay. I'm just going to briefly mention this. We'll pick back up here on Thursday. Don't go anywhere yet. We're not done. So, okay, so for the the determinable, you don't have to go to court. It's automatic. Is there a legal not unless they're unwilling to hand over the keys, right? Unless they're willing to leave, then you got to go to the courts to have them removed. But they knew this when they bought it. They knew this when they bought it. So you waste everybody's time. You go to the judge and the judge says, well, it says right here, why are we here? Why are we doing this? So it just draws out the process a little bit. So let me just introduce this and then we're gonna, but don't go anywhere just yet. I got 6 whole minutes left. The other type of estates is called a life estate. And with a life estate, there's a restriction on time. Fee simple to feasible had a restriction on use. Life estates have a restriction on time. Life estates are sometimes referred to as partial estates because you don't own them forever. You only owe them for a certain amount of time. What's that certain amount of time? Stay tuned till Thursday. So I'll pick back up here on Thursday. Don't go anywhere just yet. I'm not done. So on Thursday, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so we can see each other and say goodbye officially. On Thursday, we're going to pick up here where we left off. I'm also going to have our YouTube channel so you can have all of the recordings of the class every day, as long as y'all help me remember to record. That's the caveat. We're going to look at a couple test questions in Unit 1 to help you guys, learn how to read these test questions, how to navigate through these test questions. You guys are going calculator shopping. The sooner you get your calculator, the more practice you get with it. The more practice you have with it, the less room for human error you have. Please don't wait until the day before the exam to buy your calculator and try to learn it that day. Go get one now, okay? Everybody go calculator shopping. We are going to start math. We are going to start an introduction to math on Thursday. So we're going to finish Unit 2, do a little math introduction, and then we'll get started in Unit 3. I probably won't make it to Unit 4. Remember, you got the tentative schedule that tells you about what we're going to cover when. So you can always look ahead. If you haven't looked at Unit 2 yet, please do so by Thursday. Everybody look at Unit 3. Trust me. I know you guys just met me and you're trying to figure out if you can trust me or not. So I'm kind of asking you guys to take a huge leap of faith. This may or may not be your first time through pre-licensing, but it's not mine. And I'm telling you, I'm offering you suggestions on the best ways I think that you can pass this test. And looking ahead, you're going to have a better understanding when we discuss it in class. And then reflecting after class. What did I get? What did I learn? What the heck was she talking about? That'll help you know what to study, where to focus your energy, and where to spend your time. Day 1 down. Questions or comments, concerns? Y'all remember your homework assignment. I want an introduction, selfie with your textbook. If you have your book, if not, you'll send it when you get it. Learn, test, pass. Oh yeah, every day. There's a quiz on Unit 1. There's information on Unit 2. You should be in. If you're not in Learn, Test, Pass, please let me know, or Jane will get you in. The life estate is a life estate. It's a restriction on time. We'll pick back up there on Thursday. Learn, test, pass. Yeah, take the quiz in Unit 1, which you can. I mean, we haven't finished Unit 2 yet, so I know you may not be able to do that. You can email me or text me the homework assignment. I don't care. Again, there's 46 of you and 1 of me, so give me just a minute to respond. And I got to eat lunch, right? Right. So give me just a minute. I will get back to you. that it? Y'all have a wonderful afternoon. Have a great day tomorrow, and I'll see everybody at 9 o'clock sharp Thursday morning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye. Everybody have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Drew, thank you for letting me know. Was it somebody's birthday? Did I miss somebody's birthday? Happy birthday if I missed you.
Do we sign back on the same way Thursday?
I'm sorry.
Same